Cool, thank you.
I'm talking about putting the U when you saw the barricades there.
No, so
I went
like,
past them. I'm like, what the heck is this?
not a year or two ago, I spent the night at Flint Gresham Fire Station 1,
Oh, the old one?
and it's not where it used to be.
Yeah,
So,
the old one. I live like 3 minutes from here.
yeah, yeah.
This road right here, if you take it all the way down to that Farm Market Road, I'm like right in that neighborhood.
Could have rode your bike down.
It's coming from Longview.
Pretty significant Josh call last night. Had a ride under on it.
I saw the call notes.
Extended. It was an extended call. I don't know. Like Carrie texted me and
I was
They work.
yeah, me and Carrie were both.
Hey man, how's everything? Good. Hey man,
Oh,
what's up?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Good to see y'all.
It ended up buckling, so he had to go.
94, and cold-hearted.
Ended up buckling on the other side. So then we went to
I'm
airbags.
dead. I'm dead.
Yeah, that frame rail. If it hits the top right there, it
I'm
would work.
gonna let you do it since you're right behind me.
Airbags and lifting it up.
What was in the trailer?
Ready to go, Callie?
I'm ready. I'm nervous.
Oh man.
It's still on fire, I think.
Early onset.
Crap, I know.
Shut up, dude.
What?
He got early onset Parkinson's.
Quit, man. Shut up. Don't be making fun of old people.
Get that Kobe Beckham.
Yes, sir.
I'm nervous.
New network.
Oh, cool.
I'm nervous. Look, I got my snack.
Yeah.
Got my anti-sleepy sleep.
We got this stuff green.
Okay.
Is it like
Cheese and my food.
No,
Breakfast of engine 6 right there.
It's got auxiliary pump.
I drove down to the old station.
Motor engine,
All day.
That's what he said.
And I pulled up and I was like,
The water sits on there.
I was like,
Okay.
I don't know who to call, so I called Corey Clanton. So,
Seven
no, the dude, I was like, where's that at? He said,
I got down here and the barricades were on the street, and my
All right.
GPS turned and I'm like,
Hey, don't go to that spruce hill, you gotta turn before that road.
That road block.
Really?
Tell who they quit your stupid.
Yeah,
Figure it out before that, it's turn right before that.
turn it anytime, and go behind there.
Turn it anytime and go
It'll
behind
be
that.
good for
First
county
one.
calls.
I was gonna say, get on that, yeah.
Who's that?
That was Julius.
Julius is coming here?
Lottie County.
Not a lot, but
He said, I
some.
got stuff behind the wreck, I'm late. I said, nobody's surprised, just get here.
It's funny, all of us came from the same place and we didn't get stuck behind a wreck. You can't sit by me or we social distance.
We're gonna get a hairdo like that.
me either.
I went and got my hair cut last night, but I like yours. I
Yeah.
don't get a.
This
do
is
like
all-
that.
This is beat down by Engine 6 right here. Engine 6 beat down, dude.
Engine 6
The only reason 6 beat us on the run.
Hey,
is
that's all.
Just because of dang reserve units.
I hear you, cause we spend 8 months in reserve.
Right. They need to account for, they need to do away with it.
And they're fixing to send off Engine 6 to get a whole new.
Good.
Been good?
Yeah. Athens been treating you well?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
They're free to see the Engine 6 with Alex.
Keep going.
We take bets on the over-under, how long it's gonna stay in service, and the bet was 3 shifts. And everybody took the
Everybody
under.
went under.
Everybody went under 3 shifts, and we all won, so nobody won anything, cause nobody picks opposite.
the
You
snow.
know anytime businesses?
Pulled the power line down on the truck.
Oh, man, 127,000.
They got pretty much replace the whole bucket, don't they?
All the electronics got fried.
Oh, the electronics got.
Yeah.
All the
alright, so
electronics,
turn
well,
around,
all the
get back
electronics on
towards-
the actual.
They said it was at that, it was at F, those apartments.
You're
complex?
looking at 13
you know,
Green Street, you're on the
Spring
road.
Creek. Spring Creek.
You're left to left.
During that
Yeah, you're
storm,
past it.
was it during the ice?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
They said that power line was sagged, I guess, they
So,
didn't see
Just
it.
turn left right there.
127,000.
The engine drove out and
I'm sorry,
drove
you're
right
right in the
underneath it,
parking
but
lot.
They said
the
they-
side about the truck grabbed it by the bucket.
They said
You're
they're
on the
all
opposite side of the
covered.
road, so you hang a right, so it's
Probably
back towards Tyler.
covered.
Cause it was
You're gonna
hanging
turn
lower
left
than
at any
13
time,
and a half, I think.
Yeah, it was
Something
hanging
like
down.
And after you turn
It was
left,
hanging
at any
down.
time, you turn left.
There's
on
some-
residential street.
Didn't hurt the guys?
No, it was
Good.
hanging down, and so they couldn't see it at night, and they pulled in, but they pulled a pole down on top of the truck.
Captain Beckham said the reason why he knew how to stop is because all of a sudden he saw, whoop,
Alright, I'll
wham!
see you. Bye.
Saw it arc real big, he was like, wait, hold up. And looked down and saw that pole laying on the back of the
Wait on
truck.
Swepco to make sure the lines are dead.
Yeah, no joke.
We have good luck with trucks and all, you know.
There's a history there, that's for sure.
So he get run over by a train twice.
Oh, man.
Train.
That was before all y'all time, all my old people know that. Truck five got run over by a train
He
twice.
got hit by a train? Where?
He got run over by,
Oh, underneath it, okay.
and our chief was out there trying to push it,
Yeah.
trying to push a how-many-ever ton truck.
Really?
Underneath the.
It wasn't funny, but it was funny.
Now it's funny.
Yeah.
Back then it wasn't funny.
Oh, man.
Lead water not to make it
Hey,
higher.
Scott Rice never thought it was funny.
Especially not when it was like his roast session on his
Yeah.
retirement
He
day.
never thought it was funny.
What up, big sis?
Nothing, what you been doing?
Where you going now?
What do you mean, what am I going? I'm sitting right here.
No, I'm talking about you finna move the station.
Hey, I need to get with
Judas.
you.
Where'd you hear that?
Julius said you were scared.
2 ways.
Hey, I need to get with you again.
Judas.
I gotta take this test in March.
I know, I just talked to Russ
I
about
won't
you.
fail it.
I just talked to Russ about you. He came up there, he was relieving yesterday on his BC. Julius.
Julius is somewhere close.
He's
Joays,
pulling up his
Winchell,
head, I think.
Jason Davis.
Clint Stillman is down the road somewhere. Everybody went, so the address on
The old station?
had the old one.
Yeah.
Because Corey said, well, I pulled it on the invite. I said, no, the invite says,
Yeah.
the only address I got was the other one.
Gento?
We should just had this in Longview, if it was only Longview guys.
Yeah, no
How
doubt.
happy were the Russ yesterday?
I
About.
think Trotty was gonna
He got
come.
the Xbox promotion.
He just texted me.
Like
Did he
it.
text you?
You coming?
This is the guy now.
Oh, Jason.
I just text Clint
Jason
and
has
UA
grown a
direction,
lot
so
in
they're
the
both,
last
they're
few
both
months.
close.
He must be listening, cause he said,
Since
shut
she's
up, I
gone.
can hear you over everybody else, so he must be listening on the.
I think he wishes him the best.
So you turn it back on.
Somebody gotta tell me that we're reading.
No joke. I'm glad we didn't say, I don't think it's.
Somebody gotta tell me.
Somebody gotta tell brother.
I think
Pickles will be real bad at y'all in a minute.
how I feel about it is gonna be dictated on where I place it on the list.
Man,
If I get number one, then I get to get that spot.
could you believe that?
I'd have lost money on that.
I would have.
I would have too.
Apparently there's
I
8
wonder if
people
they're-
signed up to take it, so.
I would've.
According to Winchell, he said 8 are signed up, he said 3 will probably
Oh,
fail
yeah.
written.
Yeah.
He said
That's what I was just
couple
saying,
failed the driver's
I would've
test.
lost a paycheck on that.
We ain't figured out the reason yet, there's a reason.
That's about right.
I had my,
I will
There
say,
it
on
is.
my
hold on, let me make sure this thing paused.
like,
Well, nobody's gonna.
eight,
fess up.
because I came out being like number 6.
Really?
I promoted.
I gotta make sure nobody listening.
Yeah,
I have a habit of sticking my foot in my mouth.
That helps. He was in front of me on the list.
Which I was hoping, which I love it for sales, I'm glad for promoting, but I was hoping that list would expire. That way,
Yeah.
it would just be competition and not the.
I think it's just almost, everybody was so sure that people were gonna get it.
The only driver I know is gonna be open is Skinner spot. Other than that, I don't know of any other.
I would've lost a paycheck on it, I
Chief
promise you.
Edwards.
Yeah, I thought the writing was on the wall, oh, two, we knew number 3.
Or Skinner.
Yeah, we knew number 3.
Three was a no-brainer. If I put it, I got 4.
Right.
We need to be over.
You just put it in for you.
No, you would've got
right-
three,
You
you
got
would've
right
got
in both.
four.
We'd have got, we pulled this.
Yeah.
You would've got 3, he would've got 4.
We'd have done mail-in voting for you.
If I got the change, you first time we did go 48.96, I don't feel nothing. nervous monster, dude. I'm wired. I'm ready.
That's why you're like, and you call me up.
I'm ready to go, man.
How many times
So
did
you
you get
got
up last
purple
night?
drink.
You know what?
and
How many
stuff.
times did you get up last night?
You got codeine in that drink?
Do it.
You got codeine in that drink or what?
Shit, man. Coke in there. There's Colombian Bam Bam. I need a trade room retire when I go up to stage 7.
You ever gonna get your driving back?
Which one?
This is almost nicer than our car.
Naked.
What?
This is almost nicer than our car.
He's back.
ESD got. God dang.
Off of the road.
I need to go check my taxes.
Tell me it off with the wrong and I started to.
I live about
So he's
Yeah,
back,
that
so
far.
he's back.
Today?
Today, I think he's cleared. But then he's got vacation scheduled next shift. So he'll be back then.
I've been trying to get Rona for 10 months.
Dude, I've been looking at doorknobs.
That's what I said, I've been looking at phones.
My little brother is
I need a 2-week
I
vacation.
ain't even seen a COVID
Yeah.
patient gets COVID.
I've been licking doorknobs trying to get that 10-day vacation.
So you can't get it.
Coors Light must have an anti-corona like property or something.
There's the answer to Corona right there.
If you're not scared of it, you don't.
God
It's like,
dang.
you know, it's like a
You can't
snake,
get
it knows you're scared.
I walked in Arabella yesterday and just started licking shit. Just, you know.
You got COVID?
Everything else.
You got COVID? You got COVID? Y'all on the Whispering Pines.
Let me shake your hand.
Really need to go there.
Oh, that's crazy too. They're pretty
I've been,
genuine on what they're.
I've been in direct contact with so many COVID patients.
I
Some that I didn't even know until after the fact.
Slap McNatt.
Do what?
He said slap McNatt.
Oh,
He said-
Man, I went to the doctor the other day and, you know, they do the little checking. Contact you about her. Every third day I come here at least 10, 15 people. They look at me like you're absolute crazy.
I just lie, cause it's like.
Well, it depends on where I go.
Some-
I like to chat with them though.
Depends on how much conversation I want about it. Like, yeah, I mean, I see a COVID patient every day.
There's
Because
one.
if you say yeah, they're so confused they don't know what the hell to do.
New lieutenant.
I've never been in a room without two of them together.
How you doing?
I'm dedicated. Company man. Love man. I'm company man.
Now, sir, congratulations.
Are you serious?
I'm company
If
man
it
too.
takes Valentine's Day, it takes what you're alive.
I mean, it depends on if you're lying. If you're like, hey, I gotta make a funeral.
No. I'm going skiing. I didn't get it covered, but I think Holland's gonna do it.
Are you back there?
Man.
I can move around. It's probably not gonna be too happy about it.
We got anybody else coming?
So Dusty and Tommy were gonna come today, but they said they couldn't make it this staffing.
That's mine. That's
Yeah,
mine.
this is it. Aside from maybe some ESD guys that were included in the email, I don't know if they.
Hey, man.
Clint's still here?
I'm not sleeping.
You a good book? That's sir. We just took a class and,
Yeah, that's, well, the
Texas.
road,
I think
that's
Ross
also.
Skinner and Jack Tires.
Really?
I can't, I don't need it.
He's in New Jersey.
Stillman?
Yeah, Stone's on.
I think it's
He's
on.
an author now, and
Did you get my video and did you understand?
Yeah,
what I
no,
was
that was
saying?
helpful. That did not look open.
It is open. I don't know why they still have this sign there.
Huh?
Yeah.
Speaking to
I went past it.
Yeah, that's all I see.
I drive by there every day and
You
people
gonna
just
go?
drive right, I don't know why they're still there. I don't know if there's construction further down that
You
way.
get McNatt out. You're gonna get
Nothing
permission.
under construction in that.
Slow rolling like if I come around, I'll turn around.
Lovely.
What station?
Dude, he said this ain't in the truck.
Hey, we
Of course, stay there first.
What?
What are you talking about?
I went back to the stockyard just now. I'm gonna text you, you'd like to do a live stream. Can't come there.
Yeah.
Really?
Nobody.
When you don't go on National Hours Radio, you
Yeah.
have amazing.
Almost all day. About a 7-hour day.
We're gonna try and get it here.
That's Steve and I was gonna buy it. I almost did. They bought one and I was like,
He rolled his eyes.
fuck yeah, that was very good. You like my bookmark? I have no idea. It's clean too. It's a good bookmark. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I feel like he's gonna be like.
You lonely up there, Brad? Am I lonely up there? Derek said he'd come sit next
Not
to
like
you.
a system that we put in.
I said next
Hey,
year, you look like
I
Chris.
can't have the man, I can't have the man. Still friend.
Logan's also wearing the same shirt.
Hey man, I'm old school, dude. I'm old.
What?
Keep that jacket up.
I got it on.
In 20 years, when new
That's
shit's
all I
out,
had.
you'll be
I
stuck
wouldn't
in your own
wear
ways.
But if I've gotten home, I've got several that I
You
own.
probably brought to work, but I saw Brad wearing it.
Hold on, I got it.
That's magic.
I would be wearing boots and, yeah,
I even know my paydays.
call that.
Where were you at?
Every other week.
I had it in my locker, so I grabbed it yesterday morning.
I need to get
It's Thursday, did you get paid today?
We need to,
Next Thursday.
Yeah, I didn't
get
get
some
it.
nicer photos.
This one's not horrible.
Yesterday was your pay day.
You got an idea.
I've got like, cause like going to different classes, especially like National Fire Academy stuff, you gotta wear a nice shirt and slacks every day, so I have like a blue, a navy, of course a navy blue.
So you can wear
Gray,
polo slacks.
Like
yeah.
button down long sleeve?
No, they're polos with
Okay.
a border and stuff, like it's the regular, like, color, like. But it's like, I got a navy one, a gray one, a silver one.
There he is.
Look, if you ain't got
Hey, waiting on you. Not
You
really.
can sit up next to Brad on the front row.
you have to be able to.
Bad business, my religion.
All that.
Back row
It
bed.
looks like,
Alright.
He's laid everywhere else. He's laid everywhere else.
I know, he's like.
We'll wait just a few more minutes. One of my guys was supposed to be here. I don't know if he's actually gonna make it or not.
Who was it?
He-
Who's coming?
Lieutenant Glover, Jeremy Glover.
How are things down in Athens and your neck of the woods there, Chief?
They're good. We're busy right now. Got a lot of projects going on, projects at both stations. We've got a new engine that's being finished right now. Be here probably the end of February. Yeah, everything's good.
Is there some like neighborhood that's got like deer and elk and zebra, all these people like run through?
Yeah, Safari Waters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My wife said, "What is that?" I was like, I
Yeah.
want elk like in my backyard.
Yeah.
You know?
Neighborhood? Run all
Yeah,
out there,
that's
yeah.
what my wife said. I was like, yeah, she was joking about building a house up there.
It's like a high fenced area with a community in it.
feel like a caterpillar coming in.
No, it's gotta be nice, nice gate.
I just see walking out the yard.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, to Lane?
No, there.
I was like, yeah, I know. I was talking about you working up there. I was like, oh, that's good.
yeah. It's out toward
No.
LaRue, area, about, about 8 to 10 miles out.
Oh, I know where that is, like the, yeah, we used to go in there. First time I went in there with the big fences,
Yeah,
I saw deer walking around there, I was like, what is going on
that's
here?
it.
Do you live over there, Chief?
Huh?
Do you live over?
No, I actually live here in Tyler. I drive back forward, yeah.
So you do live here in Tyler?
I do.
Whereabouts?
Out to Cascade.
Oh, okay.
Athens growing pretty decently or not so much?
We've got a little bit of scenery turning in, but
It's far enough away from Tyler, it's not really caught much.
we're kinda out there on an island basically. It's, you know, we're about an hour from Dallas. You know, it hadn't quite made it down
Yep.
in our way.
Yeah.
30 minutes from Tyler.
There's probably not a deer in that place.
Morgan and Justin was close?
Morgan's still in Longview. She's in the Talbot apartments there behind the booth. Yeah, you know, and Justin, they're in Kilgore. So, and then Morgan's we're all pretty close. All y'all's families doing good? Yeah.
You drive over there.
Hey.
I've been driving 2 days.
Dude, I can't believe nobody's put him in 5B.
Yeah.
I've been driving a couple months now.
You can't believe that?
I can't believe somebody from one or something had to put him.
been a few years, is there something that,
Just,
Be several
you know, going to conferences and trade journals and stuff like that, you know, just taking your curiosity, school,
Yeah, both of them are equally problem.
and then just, you know, working in the environment that we do on a daily basis, you see it, you recognize it.
anybody you particularly count as a mentor or been a big influence on you?
Rick Lasky, Chief Lasky, has always been a mentor of mine, he's a friend of mine,
You gotta keep.
he's given me a lot of great information over the years.
Yeah.
Do it, so you can't. Oh, no, not at all.
Chief McRae, he's fire chief in Mount Pleasant. David Abernathy, he's, retired assistant chief with TFS.
Okay. Yeah.
He was my first chief.
Okay.
Those guys still continue to this day to be my mentor.
Yeah.
There's a number of them, you know, Chief Glass, they're in Longview.
Pretty good leader. Pretty good leader there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fire your ass.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he taught me a lot, encouraged me a lot. I owe him a lot. So yeah, there's been a number of them over the years.
This is the chief. He's one of the he would
Chief Glass, I know he was in, a couple chiefs back, what rank were you, or what was your position when he was chief?
So I was training chief,
You were training chief.
under him. Initially, when I got promoted, he was the assistant chief. At that time, we had 3 assistant chiefs in the department. You had, ops, you had EMS, and you had the fire marshal was an assistant chief. And,
he just read.
I don't know, maybe
20 minutes reading your
5, 6 months later,
fire asks you to do this.
he got promoted to fire chief.
Okay.
Chief Lee, retired, and he moved
That
up.
wasn't the case, so still here, so.
And then at that point, we dropped back down to 2 assistant.
Luckily, he swung the chin. I'm a loose.
I guess we're ready to get started. I guess the thing running live.
I told Josh the other day, you get out your free card, it's down a little bit.
It's going way down.
Yeah.
He's losing credit.
We told him, we were like, you were the token, now there's.
He ain't the token.
He ain't the token no more. He was listening.
I on scene told Jameson and for us to start taking pictures so that way we can.
I've got a few more after we pull this.
Y'all ready to get started?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
We've got everybody here that's gonna be here. Well, one thing about it this morning, we don't have to do introductions, so, but I do wanna go around the room. Being gone for 4 years now, I'm going on 5, I've kinda lost track of where everybody's at in their careers, so, tell me where you're at, what you're doing now.
Station 2C, March is our driver promotional exam, so I've been studying, got all my stuff ready.
Very
for
good.
that, so.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
7 years.
Nice.
Steady 2B.
Alright,
Captain 1B, been there roughly a year.
okay. Alright.
Driver 2C, and hopefully you're gonna promote to lieutenant in a few months.
Not good for you.
2C driver, finest station in the department. Bar colloquialism. Been in the department 8 years.
He's good.
B shift, station 1, help work in there 8 years.
Nice.
I'm driver at 1B.
Okay.
Captain 6C.
Hey, good for you.
Hey, what are we talking about?
Nice.
It seemed like 20.
Yeah,
Captain, truck 5, C shift.
okay.
LT, station 5, C shift.
Good for you guys. I'm really happy for y'all. That's awesome. It's really good to see y'all. I've missed y'all over the years. I think about you often. I talk about you often. Different aspects. I get asked different questions about Longview and such, and so I'll interject, you know, things that I know at the time. So anyway, it's great to see you guys, and I thank you for being here. You know, when Chief Clanton asked me to do another round of this, he told me that y'all were coming, And what really spoke volumes to me is he said, y'all were coming under your own accord. You're not being compensated, you're off duty, and that speaks volumes about you guys being here, so thank you very much. Chief Clanton approached me back in the fall and told me about the LEAD program that they're doing here in Smith County, and he asked if I would come and do a session, and I said absolutely. And but I asked him, I said, do you think that when we do this, we can have an open and honest dialogue with one another and have good exchange? And he said, I don't see why we can't. And I told him, because I said, if we can't sit down as men, if we can't sit down as officers or aspiring officers and discuss issues that are going on in the fire service, there's a problem with that. We need to have that open dialogue with one another. So my question to you this morning, knowing that I'm probably going to step on some toes, and that's okay. I mean, it's part of it. Can we have that open and honest dialogue with one another? Is everybody okay with that? So if you're coming here this morning looking for something advanced, looking for something specialized, looking for the next newest thing in the fire service, this is not it. This is a very basic, back to the basics discussion that we're going to have this morning that helps to get you back grounded again and helps to realign your focus in the fire service. And so I want this to be a conversation with you guys. I don't want to talk at you, I want to talk with you. So as we're going through this, if you've got stuff you want to share, interject, the more you participate, the more you'll get out of it. We've got two things we'll do this morning. So the first thing is to basically talk about company officer expectations and what a chief officer is looking for from their lieutenants and captains. It even applies to what a fire chief's looking for their chief officers and their company officers. It's applicable to all of us, no matter what rank, really, when it comes down to it. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to go into some evaluation discussion. When you sit down to do your evaluations with your employees, some things that you may already know about, some things you may not know about, but help you tweak in that regard. We're going to take breaks fairly often. I know when you're in a class, it gets tiring sitting there listening to somebody talk for long periods of time. But even though we're going to take regular breaks, if you need to get up, stretch your legs, go to the restroom, get something to snack on, whatever, make a phone call, feel free to get up and move around. We're not tied down in here. This is pretty informal class that we're going to do this morning. So how many leaders do we have in the room?
All of us.
All right. So when I asked that, and it was kind of the same response in the first class that we did, there wasn't any hands that went up, and maybe one or two. And so those of you that didn't raise your hand, why didn't you? When somebody asks you if you're a leader, you ought to raise your hand and say, darn right, I'm a leader. Take ownership of it, wear it, own it, project it. Because if you don't, who's going to follow you? I mean, really, you've got to have that kind of attitude in yourself to know that you're a leader. And if you, and only you know this, if you don't consider yourself to be a leader, then you probably need to seriously evaluate where you are in your career and what position you're in. Because in the capacity that a lot of you guys are in, you need to be leaders and be stepping up to the plate. So I'm going to ask that question again. How many leaders do we have in the room? All right, that's it. So in the future, any classes you go to, somebody asks you that question, you put your hand up. Because I know every one of you in this class, it's unlike a lot of other classes where I don't know people, but I know all of y'all, and I know all of you are leaders. So don't be afraid to raise that hand. So I'm going to do a little exercise here this morning. Who is that?
Drum Legends.
Who's this?
Firefighter Colorado.
Alright, who's that? Who's this?
Captain Randy Blaylock.
Alright, who's that?
Jason Davis,
Alright, who's that?
driver. Jason Davis.
Alright, who's that?
Driver Winchell.
Alright, who's that?
Leader, my coworker, my brother, Jason Davis.
Alright,
Man, look at that.
who's that?
Driver Montgomery,
Alright, who's this?
firefighter 2 ways.
Alright, who's that?
Captain McNabb.
Alright, who's this?
Firefighter, I mean.
Alright, who's that?
You had that.
Long to
Alright,
prepare.
who's this? Alright, who's that?
Clint.
Alright, who's that?
If he was the captain diary.
Alright, exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to hear from you guys. You do that exercise in some rooms, you'll hear, oh, that's Joe, that's John, that's Bob, that's Bill, you know, things like that. Some people will tell you it's silly to call each other by rank. Years ago when we started doing that there in Longview, that was a conversation that was had around the stations, and that was something that Chief Lazarus brought from Shreveport. Brought that professionalism into the department. And a lot of the guys said, why are we doing this? Why aren't we calling so-and-so lieutenant or so-and-so captain or so-and-so chief? And I want you to think about this in this regard. So we are a paramilitary type organization or structure, are we not? All right. So if it makes my skin crawl to hear someone call an officer by their first name. And it really makes my skin crawl to hear someone call a chief officer by their first name. You guys have worked extremely hard to get to where you're at. You deserve to be called by your title and whatever it is you are. If you go to your doctor, think about it in this regard. If you go to your doctor, do you walk in and say, hey John, hey Bob, hey Bill, how's it going? No, it's Dr. John, Dr. Bob, Dr. Bill, right? Okay. Church. You go in, do you call your pastor by their first name, or, you know, is it Pastor so-and-so, preacher so-and-so? In my case, it's Father Matt, so forth and so on. Think about being in school. Do you refer to your teachers as again, John, Billy, Bob, whatever it is, or is it Professor so-and-so? Law enforcement. Law enforcement is really something that's close to us. What do those guys refer to themselves as? That's Patrolman so-and-so, that's Sergeant so-and-so, that's Lieutenant so-and-so, Captain so-and-so, that's Chief so-and-so, Sheriff, Deputy Sheriff, well, whatever it is, Chief Deputy. So why are we the only ones that don't carry ourselves in that regard? We don't carry ourselves in that light. And I've had guys over the years tell me, well, it's okay. You know, when we're around the station, we're friends. I'm going to refer to whoever it is by their first name. But when we get out on a call, I'll refer to them as rank. And I've seen it time and time again. You get out on a call, you're doing what you're accustomed to doing. So you automatically start referring to that person by their first name. That doesn't project a good image for us as professionals that we are. So I would encourage you, if you're not already doing it, to refer to each other by your ranks. It sets the tone, it sets the mood, and it's just good business to do that. How many of you, and don't raise your hand on this, think that firefighting is the greatest job in the world? I hope all of you do. I really do, because it is. If you don't think it's the greatest job in the world, then get out of my class. That's plain and simple. It's serious. We're in a serious business, and if we don't look at this as the best job in the world, there's a problem. The people that you're supervising out there on a day-to-day basis, the people that you're interacting with from other stations, other shifts, regardless of rank, if they don't have that attitude and that mindset that this is the greatest job in the world, you need to pull them off to the side and have a conversation with them. because it is. There are two words that I want you to write down: attitude and perspective. Attitude and perspective. There is only one person that can change your attitude, and that is you. That's it. Nobody else can do that for you. Everyone in here can name someone with a piss poor attitude. More than likely, you name several. But the question I'm going to ask you, are you one of those guys? I hope not. I hope your attitude is squared away and that you're doing what you're supposed to do. Don't be one of those people in that group. So when we talk about this, I'll give you an example here. This is the person that swings their legs off the bed of a morning and says something like, "Dang, I don't want to go to that fire station today. There's no telling what kind of crap we're going to have to do today." Those idiots in administration, they don't have a clue as to what they're doing. Something along those regards. So let me ask you this series of questions, and y'all think about this. If that's the way you feel about your department, is that the same fire department that provides you with a paycheck every 2 weeks? I've been going at this for a lot of years, and I haven't failed to get a paycheck yet. It's been right on time, being deposited every 2 weeks. Is that the same fire department that provides you with vacation, paid sick leave, holiday pay, retirement, insurance, etc.? Is that the same fire department where you get to work 24 hours on, 48 off, or maybe it's a 48-96, I know that's a new thing that's going around, that allows you to work a part-time job, go fishing, go hunting, play golf, do whatever it is you want to do? Is that the same fire department that allows you to live in a nice house with a nice mortgage and drive nice vehicles, put food on your table, allow you to send your kids to nice schools? Is that the same fire department that has brand new firehouses? If they aren't brand new, do you at least have the necessities to be comfortable? Everyone I've ever worked at, yeah. Is that the same fire department that has brand new apparatus? So in other words, you're riding in good quality, dependable equipment that's not breaking down every day that you're out there and causing you problems when you respond. Is that the same fire department that does regular training with you to make sure that you're proficient in your job and make sure you return home safely to your family? Is that the same fire department, just like these guys are doing in here this morning, where you get to eat 3 meals a day, relax in a recliner for a while, maybe get an afternoon nap, maybe even sleep all night while you're still being paid? Is that the same fire department where you get to make a difference in your community each and every shift? Is that the same fire department where you get to enjoy camaraderie with each other, joke around, have fun? Is that the same fire department where you actually still get to fight fire? Sounds like a horrible place to work to me. What about you guys? It's about attitude and it's about perspective. And sometimes we fail to recognize that. We get so wrapped up in ourselves and what's going on at home, what's going on at the station level, maybe what's going on at the shift, that we let that stuff escape us. We just don't think about it. But we have a lot to be thankful for. My assistant fire chief there in Athens, his brother works for Plano and has put in a career there. You know what Plano's #1 gripe is, according to his brother? They don't make enough money. One of the highest paid fire departments, at least in the state of Texas, And their biggest gripe and complaint is they don't make enough money. That's pretty sad. I want you to put this into perspective this morning, because think about the 11,000 people that were working on the Keystone Pipeline that with the flick of a switch, all of a sudden they don't have a job anymore. Morning, LT.
Morning, sir.
How are you?
Better now.
All right. This is Lieutenant Glover, y'all, Jeremy Glover. What about the thousands and thousands of people that have lost their jobs, their careers due to COVID this past year? And here we are, brand new firehouse this morning with careers that afford us safety and security. No worries. I know that at lunch, I can go wherever I want to go, and I can reach in my pocket and I've got the cash to buy whatever lunch I want. I don't have to worry about where my next meal's coming from. Unlike a lot of people out there that are struggling from day to day, they don't know how to take care of themselves, much less take care of their families. There are thousands of people that carry that burden each and every day, 24/7. And then we as firefighters want to come in and gripe and complain about whatever it is for the shift. In the scope of things, it's small when you look at what's going on in the world around us. And again, it boils down to attitude and perspective. So, I'm going to tell you a secret, and it doesn't matter where you go. The fire service has always been the fire service, is the fire service, will always be the fire service. You can go 20 miles in any direction and hit another fire department. And if you sit down with those folks, you're going to find that they have the same problems or something similar to what you have back home. There's no difference. If you ever get the opportunity to go to the National Fire Academy, have any of you been to the National Fire Academy? All right. So the pub, where everybody gathers of an evening, that's the place to hang out. You've got people from all over the United States, the outlying territories, even some international people that will come in and take classes. And when you sit down to drink a beer with them and start conversing about, hey, where are you from? You know, what kind of problems y'all having in your department? You'd be surprised. It's like looking in a mirror. So always remember that there's no perfect work environment. I don't care whether it's the fire department or where it is. If there is, please show it to me. I'm not a gambling man, but that would be one bet I'd be willing to I'd put my whole retirement on it. There's no perfect work environment, guys. And unfortunately, we as firefighters over the years have set ourselves up to where we have this pie in the sky vision that everything's got to be perfect. It's not going to be, guys. It's just not, it's not practical, it's not life. And so we have crippled ourselves, allowing others in our departments to build up that false pretense that, you know, everything is wrong. Oh, why us? Why is this happening? You know, no one else in the world is experiencing what we're experiencing here right now. I got 2 words for you: bullshit. I mean, absolutely, that's it. If you don't believe it, get out and head to some of these other departments. I tried to encourage that when I was with you guys, to get out, go visit other departments. I'm trying to encourage our guys at Athens to go and visit other departments, other organizations, have that network, interact. It's healthy, it's positive, it's good for you to go and see that you're not in the hole that what you think you are. So again, it boils down to attitude and perspective. Let's take just a break for just a minute. I know all you guys. Lieutenant Glover doesn't know you guys, so what I'd like to do, Lieutenant Glover, tell them who you are, what you do. I tell you what, here's what we're going to do. tell you up front, these are all on you guys, so we don't have to do department. All right, so guys, as we're going around the room, what I want you to do is say your name, how many years you've been in the fire service. So, and that's total. So if you work for a couple of other departments, if you volunteered for a department in the fire service, how many years you've got in, and then your rank. So let's start here.
Brad Conrado, 11 years total in the fire service, 7th career. And I'm a firefighter.
Logan Lickens, just short of 10, I'm a driver.
Randy Blaylock, captain, 21 years, going on 14 long.
Jason Davis, 20 years, driver, Station 2, Longview.
Stephen Winchell, been in the fire service 17 years, 8 at Longview, and I'm a driver there.
Garrett Joyce, 11 years.
Trent Montgomery, I'm a driver at Station 1, I've been in it for 8 years.
Mike Met, captain, almost 22.
Ross Dyer, 13 years, captain at Longview.
Clint Stillman, overall 17 years, 13 with Longview, lieutenant in Station 5.
Jeremy Glover, 7 years, 6 with Athens, lieutenant.
What do you think about the fire chief there?
He's pretty good.
We train.
Let me step right where he had all the conversations
We
with you.
train him well.
You didn't have as much grade when you worked for us.
Athens has done it too.
What are you guys doing?
You get listening to mine every day.
They're hard on me. I got,
17, I was adding.
I got a lot more of this when we went to California and I had Money Miller both. So, y'all take your break for a minute, get up, move around.
Oh,
The only man I ever met that slept on his own mountain in California. Walked away from it.
That's for sure.
I'm old.
Old man.
Dude, he's old. Old age sets up.
You can go work out today?
Yeah.
I'll be there at 4 o'clock today.
Will you?
I can't be there at noon because we'll be here.
I'll be there at 4.
Just bouncing in
Because,
and out of
and I
stuff.
get it, leave with a positive, good job guys, you guys did well, and I was like, no, we did it. This is why we need to train, because you suck at this stuff.
Every couple hundred, 500.
See, what you do is you say, hey man, this was good. We kinda had some problems right here, and then you go back and you say, but this was pretty awesome. There,
Positive, negative.
positive, negative, positive. That's the way you run any good AR. I mean,
That's what I was asking you about, if I was off base. I was trying to not be.
but I will say in my early days,
Speak my.
when we had some of those old salties over there that would just chew your ass out, that was pretty effective too.
Time and place to speak very clearly and address the issue.
Y'all ready, guys?
Yes, sir.
Get back on again. I checked on the heat, they said they can't do anything because it's in the volunteer fire chief's office or something, it's locked, so.
Oh, we can get that.
Shorts and true down,
Never met a locked door.
I bet Winter could get through it. Give him a safety pin, you can.
Alright, so before break, we were talking about attitude and perspective, and then it's up to you, once you roll out of the bed of a morning, what kind of attitude you're gonna have for the rest of the day. Only you can change that. So I gave you a list of questions to think about. Now we're gonna put a different spin on those and look at them in a different light, in a positive light. So you've swung your feet off the bed and you've got up this morning, and first thing is, man, I get to go to work today. I get to go to the fire department. I get to do firefighter stuff. Doesn't get any better than that, does it? Hello? Does it? Do y'all believe that?
Yes.
Alright. So, that place that I go to work, I get a check every 2 weeks. I don't have to worry about it. It's deposited into my account. I've got benefits. I don't have to worry about medical. I don't have to worry about dental. I don't have to worry about vision. I've got a retirement plan that I'm contributing to. Do you know those folks even give me vacation, holidays, sick time? Best part of it is I work 24 hours on and I'm off 48. I get to go do whatever I want to with my family. I can go hunt, I can go fish, I can work me a part-time job. A lot of good things. I think me and the family, we're gonna go on a nice vacation this year. You know, go somewhere nice, spend a week, hang out. You know, that darn fire department, they've got some brand new firehouses I get to work in. Can you believe they got brand new recliners? They've got a 200-inch flat screen TV mounted on the wall. They've got bedrooms that are set up with the latest Tempur-Pedic mattresses that help me with my back problems. Can y'all believe that I get to ride in a brand new $1 million piece of fire apparatus and they trust me to drive that? Man, I get to showcase that around town. Is that right, Trent? Yes, sir.
Why did you ask me that?
Because when Trent hits something, Athens can hear it.
You know,
I get to ride him up.
you know, my department, they care about me because it's not just a fire department. We have regular training. We get to train on a regular basis. I get to develop my skill sets. I get to attend training. I get to do all kinds of neat stuff that I know a lot of my brothers in other departments don't get the opportunity to do. And the nice thing about it is it's a comfort to my wife and my kids that I'm being trained to the best of my ability to come home safe to them the next morning. Really what I like about my job compared to maybe some other jobs that are out there is I get to make a true difference in my community each and every day that I interact with the public. And even if it's a small sliver of whatever, I still know that I'm making an impact. It's a great place. You know, I work among my friends. I get to see them every third day, if not more often. We laugh, we cut up, but we work. we get down to business, but when it's time to work, we work. When it's time to play, we play. We share meals together. We may even laugh and cry together. It just depends. It's a great place to work. You know, and I know for you guys, unlike us in Athens, y'all get to fight a lot of fire still. That's something a lot of fire departments don't get to do anymore. So, what kind of environment does that sound like now? Does that sound like some place you're proud to be part of? I hope so. Hope so. See, there's times that we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day details that we miss the forest for the trees, and it's really sad. It applies to everybody, but particularly officers. You've got to maintain a 30,000-foot view at all times. And instead of fighting each other and worrying about the small stuff, what if we all banded together and did things the right way? What kind of department would you have? If everybody was focused, heading the same direction, think about it. So in the past, I've done an exercise, and I probably have hit some of you guys from years past with this exercise, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. And I refer to it as the thankful exercise. And what we do is we will come up one at a time, and we'll write something on the board that we're thankful for. I don't care what it is. Doesn't even have to pertain to the fire department. Just something you're thankful for. And we'll do probably 3 or 4 cycles of that. And usually, unless this is different, what I see happen is you start seeing a lot of stuff that's listed up here on the board, and then all of a sudden, man, it's my turn to go up there. Oh man, what am I thankful for? Seriously? You've got to think that hard as to what you're thankful for? You need to dig down deep, guys. You've got a lot to be thankful for. You ought to be able to just go down that and just fill both those boards up in a matter of minutes. So we're going to do that. So come up and write something you're thankful for. You know, that board would look a lot nicer if y'all write with the left hand instead of the right.
Say less, Chief.
There you go.
And how come it's all getting erased in here, right?
You only got one? We just talked about that.
Is that like job security?
All of it.
All being in EMS.
Freedom from EMS charts. Sorry, Amy. No, I've been a lot of that. When Killer said that.
Well, I thought she was fixing to flip.
We had a big meeting the other day about it.
I slipped him a 20 a little while ago.
Oh, okay.
And, I come out how bad it was, and Killer said, at least it's not as bad as the EMS charge or something to that effect. Amy was standing right there.
Let me put the light first.
But everybody else thought
Oh,
it was
here's
good.
left hand.
I thought it was awesome.
I did too. I thought you.
I said, I wanted to call him last night, like, hey, she call you?
You could tell she tried to laugh it off.
I hate it when, like you said, there's something in there, you're like, that's what I was supposed to say.
So Colorado,
Yes, sir.
do we need to have a sidebar conversation?
People better attitude than that. Okay, get you some time.
Dude, wait, what do you say old age you get you?
They got me. You pass that.
Hell, I ain't going to that shit. Hell, yeah. I mean, you ain't seen a lady for mine.
I did it like 15 years ago.
Still good?
Not as good, it's starting to get like a little fuzzy. Pretty terrified.
You know, when I was 18.
But like, oh yeah, when I had it done, it was not there.
Family and friends.
Yeah, I worked contract for a few years. That was when I first deployed overseas, it's in the way I got it.
There he goes.
Yeah.
True
Tom
feeling.
Brady. Playing the ball, man.
Spoken truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be better if it's 4896, just FYI.
Have y'all talked about that any?
Oh, don't bring that up.
No?
No.
That's what our fire
Is it?
department.
Highly controversial.
We're too busy.
We talked about it.
Some people get very upset over that.
I'll do it as soon as you write a medical one for 48.
See? Okay, well, rather than.
I don't even know what I was up here. I'll look and see.
24 in my engine for 24. It's the same thing.
No, he didn't.
I'm not copying, I don't know what I was up here, I'm trying to listen to.
What had been written.
You're so funny. You come right inching sick. You know we're busy.
Our numbers don't lie.
I'll get you. Short.
Chair force. PRT.
Because we were 800 calls in the reserve.
Go count the reserves and add it to yours, and it still don't touch out.
That is not lefty. That is, in 4 years, when we get to do 86, we'll redo the numbers. and we'll see.
Running out of options.
Do what you need to do, buddy.
We'll probably run.
Be a reserve at that point.
I hear you.
I'm telling you, it's not.
And you?
Me?
Yeah.
I think the better
Maybe
question
I
would
don't
be
think
to ask them. if I-
everybody.
But,
You is,
I think
like a
a piece of-
12-course meal every time we go.
heck yeah, man, gotta do it right. Mean it,
Vertical. Vertical. A lot of places are scared to get on the roof, including the Metroplex.
Backstabbers.
Hey, that's lieutenant work right there.
Auto load. Oh, nobody put auto load car in here, 'cause that's mine.
Oh, we don't have that, so.
That auto load car is the best thing that ever happened. Anyway.
Yeah. It was
sure.
It enables small people like me.
Yeah, V8 when I was just picking decently heavy guy up out of a wheelchair, putting him got the doctor there was like, you guys are gonna destroy your backs. That's what we do.
You got another option, sir?
Yeah, I'm not thanking
His family, not mine.
It's different. It's different, different family.
Hey, we're being positive. It did break down last night.
How can you live CrossFit?
Do what?
How can you live CrossFit?
I'm going with it. Actually, doing some beer. Them fools be getting up at 5 a.m. and make 6 though. The one by South Trip Creek.
Citadel?
Is that?
Is that the only one Carly and Amy on there? 'Cause I don't think they're doing college.
Me no all day, let it come. Me no all day. I know what y'all, I don't know what y'all.
Maybe to you today.
If they're not going CrossFit. I'm just saying, it's like, oh, every time.
Y'all act like y'all fools ain't got no laundry.
Scoot over to that
Back
other
out.
there. Placer.
We're not, signing a state contract with ours.
Not literally.
Definitely.
I wish. It's not a thing yet.
The opportunities that just had.
It's expensive surgery to get it in your leg, man. I can't do it.
Adam's watching the video.
Hey, Adam Holt.
Adam Holt, we'd like to welcome you. Adam's watching the video. Nice.
Well, I'm still in the first word.
Alright.
She's gonna put interior decorating up there for a minute.
I'll read that correctly when I'm done. Huh? 50?
Is she watching this?
She is not.
You're attacking all of That's exactly
Yeah, I know, I'm thinking for my dog.
Cujo.
No, I'm still writing it, that's exactly what I was about to write. I might have something.
For the sovereign state of Texas?
Good one.
I thought that'd be your number one.
Bumping it up before shoot trains.
You just got Brandon Reed up there, we'll look about that.
Shift trade,
No, I just gonna put Brandon Reeves.
cash trades.
That was gonna be my next
There it
one.
is, there it is.
Oh, man.
Heck yeah. When do you promote? I'm putting in.
I don't know.
You know, Teresa,
Weeks and months.
Is that IV or?
I didn't know it would be
Smooth
so
or
hard.
IV or?
Yeah, that's it.
I know what I'm riding up there next. Leather helmets.
Don't you have, I think you have to have a leather helmet to be able to rate that.
Is this a wish list or a thankful list?
No, I think
You ready?
that's funny right there.
What does it say?
I haven't read everything. I haven't read everything.
There's still hope. But you're 3 out of 5. Yep. There's still 2 more.
But I don't
Oh,
find it soul crushing.
I thought that said Canada Dry.
I didn't hear it.
He had to figure that spell
I
out.
ain't no spell.
Ain't here, back.
Let's not start that.
Maybe you got a degree out of it, so it's okay.
Well, no, the report to that is better than the high school year.
Need your degree. What's that? I hadn't had a surgery this year yet.
So far, so good.
Your version of that is sick time.
Rich skin.
Yeah, put it up there. All right, Pat Mahomes. I know you would. I know you would. Lord.
You can't add to mine. Are the Capitals still playing?
Next year's the year.
Next year,
We've only been hearing that for 20 years.
I'll be
It's a rebuilding year.
Yeah, rebuild year.
I'll be right one of these years. It's bound to happen.
Even a broken clock is that close to that.
That's why it's 12.
Patient refusal, patient refusal.
Wait, do we have
Opinion matters.
Do they have to be paper?
I figured it was a medic.
Alright guys, so when you look at what y'all have all come up with and posted up here, that's great stuff. It is stuff to be thankful for, without a doubt. Something that I don't know how to convey it to you, is something you just have to, I guess, get to a point in your career where you realize. But I want to tell you from my perspective, that after all these years, the things that we think are big at the time are really very small. There's not a lot of issues that you're going to come across in your career that are something that's monumental. For the most part, they're all very small. In some cases, they're even insignificant. Some of them you won't even remember. So I guess one thing I wish I could pass to you this morning is that as you're going through your career, try to keep that in the back of your mind. That even though today may seem like it's something that's just over the top in the big scheme of things, it's probably not. There's just not that many of them out there that are. So the next 2 words, let me get this off the board here. So who's gonna win the Super Bowl?
Not the Cowboys.
No.
Packers.
predictions?
Chiefs. KC unless Mahomes gets hurt.
Alright. So who I'm pulling for?
If he gets hurt, then probably over.
Oh, come on.
I think if the Chiefs win,
Anything's
Tom
possible.
Brady's retired.
Henny's gonna come in and lead him.
Hey, anyway.
He better die.
Come on.
Right now, he said.
Yeah.
Dak with 2 broken ankles better than him.
Oh, come on. Yes, you're gonna say your running back's top tier.
He slid, he made it. That didn't make it.
Next 2 words I want you to write down are ownership and responsibilities. So we'll start at the back of the room and work our way forward. Lieutenant Glover,
Yes, sir.
what does ownership and responsibilities mean to you?
That's owning whatever it is. This is my ship. These are my tools. This is my engine.
Okay.
You know, not just saying, oh, that's the department engine, that's our engine, that's whatever. It makes you more about whatever it is. You know, not that it's necessarily better, you know, hey, this is my saw, and I know my saw works. You know, type thing.
Clint?
Similar answer, I mean, your assignments, owning what you have to do, owning the decisions or calls that you make, whether right or wrong, and responsibilities being, anything that you can have an impact in.
Okay.
Pretty similar. I mean, ownership and responsibility is pretty much the same thing, especially as the company officer at my station. I'm the one who ultimately owns everything from what goes good, you know, praise your guys, to if it goes bad, well, it's ultimately on you. Did you not prepare the guy?
Glad you said that.
was he
That's
not
gonna tie in
clear?
here in a minute.
Kinda like Darcy said, it starts and ends with you as the officer, good or bad. And,
Okay.
you know, you own it, good or bad.
See it.
Right, I think, pride and ownership goes in the same, right beside each other. Showing ownership in something gives you that pride, like Lieutenant was talking about saying this is my truck, this is my station, just having that pride of, and taking the responsibility to have that pride. I think it all ties together.
One thing on responsibility is that no one else is responsible but me for knowing my skill set, perfecting my craft, that I take responsibility to make sure that I'm doing stretches, to make sure I can force, not that I'm not told more than I can tell myself. I need to be good at that.
Okay.
Ownership and responsibilities have to do with the things that I can change and affect, not the ones that other people have responsibility for that I can't change. These are the things that I can make a difference on.
Well, things are whole, almost say they hit a lot of them, but yeah, ownership, just take care of your guys, you know, take care of your citizens, and again, you know, owning any mistakes or positive things, and that's what ownership is to me.
Just like everybody's saying, you gotta own up to the faults and mistakes you make and the impact of those. And you gotta learn from that. You know, you gotta, as an officer, you're responsible for your crew, and you gotta break that down to them and like, look guys, this is where I failed. I see this now. You know, from now, you know, I've owned up to this, and you gotta have the good and the bad. And it's just like everybody's saying, you're responsible for your own actions and what you do with those.
Okay.
The responsibility sticks out heavier to me right now in my particular season of career. Starting to look at a lieutenant's test, I get to step up some. Those are heavier days. If you take it, if you have ownership over it and you take it seriously, those are heavier days on your way. For me, it's an hour drive in. It's a thought process about, first of all, what do we got to do? What's going to change when we get there on the things that we got to do? But then ultimately, like, if things go bad, you know, what are we really going to have to do to make to get through the day? You know, as a guy who is in that intermittent time, it's almost I'll use the word scary. You know, it's something that you have to have in the back of your mind.
Ownership is what I take pride in and what I claim to be my own. And then responsibility to me is the expectation that I either place on myself or that others place on me, and that I need to live up to and have integrity with.
Okay? All great answers. Can't argue with any of that. Do you really believe what you just said, and do you practice it? And here's why. I wish I had $1 for every time that I had a company officer bitch, bellyache, moan, whine, complain, and any other word you want to throw in there about towels being left in the dryer, dishes left in the sink, the engine's half full of fuel. They didn't mow the yard yesterday. So in my previous capacity, first of all, as a battalion chief, I would look at my company officers. If that's the kind of company officer you are, then you don't need to be the company officer at that station. You're being paid a great salary to own it. And I think pretty much everybody in here said it's your responsibility. Whatever's going on that shift that day, that's on you. Like Lieutenant Glover said, that's your shift, that's your house, that's your crew, that's your equipment, everything around there. That belongs to you.
Yeah.
But, but seriously, it would make me question those officers. I mean, I'd have a conversation with them, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, here's a guy that's a captain. He can't make those kind of decisions on his own. He's got to run that up the flagpole. What about talking to your guys that you're supervising? If it's really that big of an issue, why don't you talk to the other 2 officers on the other 2 shifts that work there at the same house? And the question would sometimes be, you mean I got to communicate with those guys? Well, yeah. Then you have the officer that doesn't like the officer in the neighboring district or over at the next station or on a different shift. I'm not going to work with him. You seen the way he runs his house? Sounds like a bunch of overgrown kindergartners that you're dealing with. Come on, guys. Really? Can't we just be adults, be officers? Can we be brothers? Can we? And support one another instead of tearing each other down all the time. It drives me crazy to see guys doing that. There's no call for it. And that's something else that pisses me off. We refer to each other as brothers. Oh, that's my brothers. We got the brotherhood. And then we turn around and stab each other in the back. What kind of brotherhood is that? Do you really ascribe to being in the brotherhood of firefighting, or is it just lip service that we give because we think that sounds cool and that's what we want the other guys to think? You either own it or you don't. There's no in between. You either believe it or you don't. I hope you believe it and you ascribe to it and you support it. Or it's an officer that says something to the effect of, I can't believe we just ran that call. There wasn't anything wrong with that guy. I'm sick and tired of running calls to that guy's house for no reason at all. Or what's worse is an officer that allows their people to make those comments without any kind of correction. Think about it. Here's one I'll throw to you, and it drives me crazy. Pick up a trade journal, Firehouse Magazine, Fire Engineering, any of them that you look at, or you go to a conference and you got a 28-year-old PhD standing up there at the front of the class talking about the differences between the X, Y, and Z generations. So this 28-year-old was in high school when these other guys were what, in junior high? Come on. You've not had the experiences with that. X, Y, Z. Guys, the fire service is the same fire service it's been for 200 years. When I started in the early 80s, I'm sure the older guys looked at me as, here's that, whatever they called us back then, young pup or whatever that doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground. Well, maybe that was true. Today, have you got new employees that are coming on board? I'll tell you about Athens. We've, in the past probably, year, we've hired 5 new guys that are 18, 19 years old. Young staff. Most of them out of that group have never even been in the fire service. They're green as gourds. There's a story that I was told when I went to Athens, and I still hear it come up every now and then. Lieutenant Glover, you'll probably know who I'm referring to. There was a firefighter that hired on that basically grew up in the DFW Metroplex. He grew up in the concrete jungle, if you will. He had never been exposed to power tools, power equipment. He just didn't have that kind of experience. And the running joke was, this guy didn't even know how to start a weed eater. Well, maybe that's true. But whose responsibility is it to teach him how to run that weed eater? I don't know this to be a fact. The guy's no longer with Athens. He went on to another department. I know that he caught a lot of crap from the guys because of that lack of experience. It wasn't any fault of his. It's just the way he was brought up. I wonder today, had we have taken a different angle with him and coached him and mentored him and brought him up to where he needed to be as an employee, if he'd still be one of our employees there in Athens. Instead, the guys rode him hard, made fun of him, pretty well, from what I get, did everything to run him out. I mean, why would you want to work for a place like that? Where are our mentors? Where are our coaches? And I don't care if you're a firefighter, a driver, a company officer, or a chief officer, we all have the responsibility to coach and teach and mentor. Even if it's on small scales. You may teach somebody something today that you think is so insignificant that may actually save their life, another firefighter's life, or one of the citizens' lives out there. You don't know. But we need to step back up to the plate and become mentors again. I'm worried that the next new big thing in the fire service, now that we've got to the Z generation, oh my gosh, we've run out of the alphabet. What are we going to go to next? You know, is it going to be AA? Adverse aptitude? I don't know. You walk in and tell a firefighter, I want you to go to AA meetings. Well, I don't drink. No, it's not that kind of AA meeting. You know, seriously. Fire service is the fire service is the fire service. Yeah, there's going to be generational differences. I mean, what do you expect? How we approach that is what's important. Be the coach, be the mentor, be the trainer.
Have y'all found some of the newer generation uncoachable or harder to coach?
No, at least not with us. Lieutenant Glover will tell you the past 5 hires that we've got, in some cases, are running circles around some of our veterans there in the department. Now, they may not be seasoned in the sense of having years and knowledge and stuff like that, but as far as initiative and work and stuff like that, yeah, they're smoking. So, they're hungry, they want to learn, they want to grasp on to anything that you can throw their way. Would you agree with that?
I would say so. I would say the last guys that we've hired have been pretty good.
Yeah. I worked with a paramedic many years ago that had an awful attitude towards everyone. And I truly believe that the guy even hated himself. I mean, he was just, you look in the dictionary at some definition of miserable, and his picture was there. He treated everyone around him horrible. He even took it out on patients. And I put up with it for a while, and it finally got to the point, particularly with his interaction with our customers, that I thought I need to go up the chain with this. So I went to my captain, ultimately went to the battalion chief with documented concerns, multiple documented concerns, and to my dismay, nothing was ever done. They just glossed over it, just let him kept on doing what he was doing, and it was a shame, because not only did our customers suffered, but we suffered just having to work and be around the guy, just a constant negative. He was a cancer, that's what he was. And leadership wouldn't do anything about it, and it was really sad. And I made a decision at that point in time that if I was ever in a leadership role to where I could impact or do something with somebody like that, I wasn't gonna sit by and let it just continue to happen. He wound up going on elsewhere. That's a story in itself. But if you're an officer and have something like that, do the right thing. If you have guys that come to you and say, hey, I've got a problem with a person out here on the box that's got a bad attitude or whatever, check into it. See what's going on. If you're an officer that's been left with these problems, how do you handle that? Or are you going to be that officer that I referred to earlier that bitches, gripes, moans, whines, and complains at the drop of a hat? I hope not. Ownership is tied to accepting responsibilities. It's tied to perspective. It's tied to attitude. They're all intertwined and linked. So with that being said, let's take a quick break, and then I'm going to tell you a story when you come back.
Oh, Jim, you were up right there. Hey, Jim, oh, damn, that is pop it baby back in place.
Just a quick reminder, that stays live streaming, so come out here. Shout out.
Worried you might say something?
I just, thought I'd tell you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm paused it, but y'all are live streaming.
How are you?
One EMS truck joke so far.
You guys are funny. That does look good, buddy.
Like this?
Did you get your rest of your stuff done?
I did. Background check, P test. I'm just waiting on her to tell me what's next.
Sweet.
Everything's done. I'm ready.
Good.
been Longview treating you?
Oh, it's been good.
We're in a pretty busy house, so.
Yeah.
Most of the guys are downtown.
I think we ran 5 yesterday.
Pretty busy.
Yeah, well, so since the whole COVID thing happened, our EMS calls.
Yeah.
Chris last year, 1,400 calls. This last year, we were running 1,000. We dropped that.
They building the house?
You know what's crazy about that? So you cannot criminally that's what you said. I criminally trespassed somebody from Station 2 and just walked in, like ring down.
You had time to kind of go into maybe just a little bit more, talking about bad attitude brought to that. How do you deal with that bad attitude? Just some thoughts on that, what works, what doesn't work?
Yeah.
Obviously, you gotta take it seriously. Are you able to kind of give a few insights or principles on that?
Yeah, let's hit it at the end.
Okay.
Let me make myself known and don't let me forget.
I go look around.
Okay, I'll hit you up. The watchers there were like, let's see team. And they're like, 20 good elections. I was
2,700.
Okay, guys, I wanna share a story with you. And this is a Longview story. Years ago, early on in my career, when I was doing paramedicine, we started running a lot 405 Jarvis Street. Some of you may have heard this story before. You should know where Jarvis Street is. It's down by the old training field, by the old football stadium. And the lady's name was Octavia Brown. And at the time we started running on Miss Octavia, she was about probably 68 years old, had a few different medical problems. She lived in a shotgun house. All of you know what a shotgun house is. We've got a lot of them there in Longview. Floor had holes in it, the walls had holes in it, ceiling had holes in it, and the back of the house was starting to cave in. It was cold as crap in the wintertime and hot as hell in the summertime, and everything in between, bugs, you name it. She had a Social Security check of, I think at the time it was around $700 a month. And you say, well, how do you know that? Because later on we tried to work with her and help her get into a better environment. That was it. That was all she had. Her grandson, Reggie, lived with her. He was 10 years old at the time we started running to Miss Brown's house. Reggie's dad was in prison. His mom was a prostitute and a drug addict, so she wasn't in the picture. And his older brother was part of the 12th Street gang that you know there in South Longview. Just a bad guy. Reggie didn't have anybody but Miss Octavia. So when we first started running on Miss Octavia, it'd be a call here, call there, you know, kind of sporadic. And we got to knowing her, you know, of course getting to know Reggie, because obviously anytime we would transport her to the hospital, Reggie would have to come along. So as time went by, the calls began to get more and more frequent with Miss Octavia. What used to be maybe a call here and there now was maybe a couple of calls more frequently. Eventually worked up to where, no joke, we were running to 405 Jarvis Street sometimes 4, 5, 6 times in a shift for various complaints. And I'm not going to lie to you and stand up here and try to be holier than thou or anything like that, because like you, it got tiring. you know, going there day in, day out, all hours of the day and night. You know, you started to ask those questions. Why are we running down there? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? We finally noticed a pattern, and why it took us so long to notice a pattern, I don't know. I guess we had our heads stuck up our butts, but breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime were the common 4 times that we would see Miss Octavia every day. And it dawned on us, the reason she was doing that, her motherly instincts were trying to take care of Reggie. She didn't have the money to feed him. She knew that if we transported her to the hospital and Reggie came along, the nurses were going to give him snacks. Lots of times they go to the cafeteria, get him full meals. That was the only way she had to feed him. And when we learned that, I can't speak for everybody, but I felt horrible for the things that I had thought and some of the things I had said about responding to 405 Jarvis Street. Perspective, attitude. It's something I keep in the back of my mind even to this day. Her face and Reggie's face comes to mind when I hear guys griping about having to make calls. Why did you sign up for this job? Be my first question. Next question is, did anybody hold a gun to your head and say, you have to work for Longview Fire Department? You have to be a firefighter and work in that business. Did anybody do that? They hold a gun to your head? You made that decision voluntarily under your own free will and accord. I want to think positive of every firefighter across the country, that they got into this for the right reasons. They got into it because they wanted to help people, because it's a people helping job. But unfortunately, and I've seen it throughout my career, you have a station house, you have a crew, you may even have a shift that paints such a negative attitude about what we do. These new employees coming in, they fall right in line with that. They think that's the norm. They don't know any better. It goes back to, where are the teachers? Where are the coaches? Where are the mentors? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing to bring those new guys along, and gals, along to where they need to be, to where they have the right mindset making those calls? We think that we have the right to tell the community when to access 911. Don't call me this afternoon. I'm going to be roached up in the recliner watching some kind of trash TV. Don't call me in the middle of the night for a stumped toe. I'm going to be really sleeping good. I've got to work my part-time job tomorrow. Is that really the kind of service we want to deliver to our community? Is that the way we want to be remembered as firefighters? I don't want people to look at me and say, he didn't give a crap about the community. He was just in it for himself. All he wanted to do was draw a paycheck. We all know people like that. It's not our place. Our place is to serve at all costs, no matter what. The public has entrusted us to serve them. When you pin that badge on your chest and take that oath, you've sworn to uphold what's right for the community. If you don't understand that, if you can't buy into that, if those types of calls are beneath you, then all I need to tell you is carry your ass down the road to somewhere else, because we don't need you and we don't want you. And if you've got people working for you that you supervise that have those kind of attitudes, you need to pull them in and set them straight and tell them exactly what I just told you. No holds barred. I don't care if they like it or not. That's something that we have lost as a fire service. There used to be a point in time where officers were officers, and what officers said meant something. We've got into this touchy-feely world now where I don't want to hurt his feelings. I'm really worried about what he may think about me as an officer if I get on to him. It's bullcrap, guys. You're an officer for a reason. You have a responsibility to do the right things all the time. And if you've got knuckleheads that are working with you that are not doing what they're supposed to do, you need to carry them out back and have a conversation with them. It's that serious, guys. We need to grow up and be men. We need to grow up and be officers. And if you can't do that, then it goes back to what I said earlier in the beginning. You need to reevaluate your position and where you're at. Maybe you don't need to be an officer. We make good money for what we do. And for the most part, it's real easy money. And it burns me up to hear firefighters trash talk in our profession. It always has. We have a responsibility, everybody in this room, I don't care what rank you are, to stop it. You hear somebody tearing down another person, another shift, another station house, whatever it is, politely say, brother, I need to talk to you. Let's go over here and have a conversation. Help your firefighters adjust their attitudes, find a different perspective, and buy into ownership, and to understand their roles and responsibilities in a professional organization. And after you have coached them, talked to them, mentored them, trained them, if they still can't buy into that, then help them find a job that they'll be happy in. McDonald's is always hiring. Hi, welcome to McDonald's. Can I help you? Ship them down there and let them bitch and moan and bellyache. The next word I want you to write down is details. I knew of a firefighter once that that used to make the comment that checking the apparatus every day was a waste of time. I didn't even know this guy hardly, but that told me everything I needed to know about that guy. Can you imagine? It's ludicrous to be checking out your equipment every day. What kind of firefighter even thinks like that? Certainly not the kind of firefighter I want to be around or be part of. Because if he looks at that in that regard, I hate to know I was buried up knee deep in an offensive fire on the end of a nozzle with him having that kind of attitude. What's he going to do? You know? Had the opportunity to go to New York in 2000 for a seminar. And I had the opportunity to go out to the Bronx and ride with Rescue 3 for a 24-hour shift. And I'll always treasure that time. One of the things that stood out to me about them, do you know how long it took them to check out Rescue 3? The way their schedule works in New York, they work 8s and 16s. Now you may actually wind up working a 24. They work it different ways, but it's divided into days and nights. Twice a day, Rescue 3 is checked out, top to bottom, end to end, inside and out. Do you know how long it takes them to check out Rescue 3?
3 hours.
3 hours. I've never seen firefighters comb through equipment the way that they did. I mean, anything you can think of, from their vent saws, checking the blades, taking the blades off, carrying them over to a grinder, sharpening them, putting them back on the saw, making sure the saws were full of fuel, oiled up, that they would fire, checking the spark plugs. I mean, and the list just goes on and on and on. And I thought, man, you know, these guys are serious about their work. And, you know, I'm accustomed to the guys maybe taking 30, 45 minutes maybe to check out a rig. It's something that's stuck. Details matter. Always remember that. Have you ever been on a call and you realized you didn't have the tools that you needed? I have, and it's not a good feeling. We had a call out in Hallsville one day for a gasoline tanker that was on its side and it was pouring, it was leaking gasoline. So Station 2 responded. I knew that we had dome clamps on the rig and it would be an easy fix. So I arrive on scene, it's burping out the lid, out the dome. Thought, man, it's gonna be easy. Asked the captain to grab the dome clamps, and I'm standing there and this thing's still burping gasoline, and guys are going around the truck, opening compartments, slam the compartment, go to the next one, opening it up, looking, slamming. They make about 4 or 5 trips around the truck. Finally he comes back and he said, I don't know where they are. Somebody had taken them off the rig and didn't pass that information on to the other 2 shifts. And wound up.
That was me.
Was that you?
I own it.
All right.
I was driving.
So anyway, you know, we wound up improvising for that, and I appreciate that. You know, we improvised and did something different, but it goes back to the details, guys. The smallest of details are important. Be sure you have that open communication with everybody that you work with, not only on your shift and in your house, but across the other 2 shifts. It's so important. I can't emphasize that enough. So let's talk about buddy versus boss. Y'all all heard that terminology. You've been in long enough that you've heard that. One of the hardest roles that you're going to have as a company officer is making that delineation in the sand between being a buddy and being their boss. It's a tough road to hoe. I think for the most part, we all like the guys that we work with. The last thing you want to do is having to get on them, having to ride them, you know, whatever it is, pulling them into the office, counseling with them. You don't want to be doing that. But it's so buddy instead of being their boss that it's a trap. And if you let yourself get into that trap, you're not doing that firefighter any justice. You're not doing yourself any justice. You're not doing your house any justice. You're not doing the shift any justice. You're not doing the department any justice, and you're certainly not doing justice to the people we're serving out there in the community. It's a trickle effect. Don't be one of those kind of guys. How many of your friends are actually working for you? In a lot of cases, you do. People want to transfer over here because they like so-and-so. And all of a sudden, you've got groups over here that are all friends. They go hunting and fishing on their days off or do whatever it is they do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all. But do you treat them differently than you do your other employees that you supervise? Do you hold them to the same standards as everyone else? What happens if you need to discipline them? And how do you do that with them being your friends? And I'll tell you a story that happened to me years ago. The city implemented what was known as pay for performance. And so it was up to your officer whether you were going to get any kind of pay raise that year. You'd either get a 1%, a 3%, or a 5%. In some cases, you might not get anything. So at that particular point in time was when we still had the tiered system there in Longview. That was where we had 3 ambulances and we had a paramedic supervisor who was in a vehicle to himself there at Central, and then we had another one out at Station 7, and that's the way the system worked. because we were so overloaded with calls, it was not uncommon for us to run somewhere between 16 and 20 calls in a shift. That was the norm. I was running my ass off every shift, while the guys at the station do their normal station duties, hang out, you know, laugh, cut up, visit, eat, take naps in the afternoon while I'm running around the area. And at that time, we didn't just service Longview. We went all the way to Tatum. We went all the way to Easton. We went all the way out a little bit past 450 on Interstate heading toward Marshall. We went into White Oak. We went way up north to the Upshur County line. It was a huge area that we were covering, and we were busy. Well, that first year came time for us to get our evaluations, and I was called into the captain's office and was told, you're going to get a 1% this year. Okay, so I took it, you know, thought, well, maybe he's got some valid points. Until I got around the kitchen table and found out the other guys were getting 5%. And it put a sour taste in my mouth because there was no equity in there. I was not slacking. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. There was certainly no reason why, if they were going to get 5%, I shouldn't be getting 5%. But for 3 years in a row, that's the way it went. Until finally the city did away with it, thank goodness. But it came down to that buddy versus boss thing. I was not in the clique. I was not there long enough to even be associated with them. I was out running calls. So I didn't fold into that, oh, you're my buddy, I'm going to take care of anything. Don't get caught up in that trap. Are you an officer that's able to separate that work from friendship? Some people can't. And as a result, the organization's going to begin to develop problems. We used to have a station that was a very tight clique on a particular shift. They didn't follow the rules and made it clear they weren't going to follow the rules. They didn't follow SOPs. They basically just ran them up. They did whatever they wanted to do. And because of who they were and who they were supervised by, they got away with a lot. Consequently, everyone else in the department, I mean, you see it going on, it's blatant. They developed the attitude, well, if they can get away with it, we can too. So all of a sudden, you've got a department on all 3 shifts that's not following any of the rules, they're not following any of the SOPs, everybody's just doing their own thing. That's not good. The only way, and this is the only way, that the buddy and boss will work is if the person that you're supervising has respect for you. Always remember this, your so-called friends, that if they are truly your friends and they get mad and upset because you're simply asking them to do their job or you're holding them accountable, and then you're having to discipline them and they get pissed off about that, then they never were your friends to begin with, because a true friend wouldn't put you in that position to start. Think about that. It's been hard over the years. And Chief Clanton, I hope you don't mind me bringing you up, but Chief Clanton, Chief Kroll, Captain and Lieutenant at Station 3. I was responsible for supervising those guys. They're some of my best friends. But there was times that we had to have conversations to make things right. It wasn't anything personal. It was a job, guys. It's work. And I'm fortunate in the fact that that guy sitting back there and Chief Kroll are true friends. They recognize the fact that it wasn't anything personal again. They realized we got to do something different here. And I appreciate that, Chief.
Yes, sir.
So always be careful with that, guys. It's a trap you can get caught up in. Training. Let's talk about that for a minute. Have y'all ever heard the phrase, no Lieutenant Glover has, if you're walking through, you know, a crowd or something, you go, man, see a guy over there, he's a 5'1". Or you see a guy over there, he's a 10'1". See a guy over there, he's a 15'1", or maybe a 21. Y'all have any idea what that is? What is it?
Time on the job.
Huh?
Time of experience.
Yeah, it's a guy that's got, say, 10 years on the job, but 1 year's worth of experience. They did just enough to make it past their 1 year probationary period, and then they've sat on their ass the rest of the time and haven't bothered to go to any schools. They don't pick up trade journals. They don't get online to look at stuff. They're not engaged in training. I mean, they're just a slug. And so for them, the job is about me. Everything. Those are the guys that simply want to come in and draw the paycheck like I'm talking about. They don't want to do anything else that the department requires, but they darn sure want that mailbox money every 2 weeks. This job is about learning something every shift. I spent 14 years in training, and one of the consistent things I always heard from the company officers on station rounds was, oh man, we don't have time to train today, we're so busy. But it was always funny to me that I'd catch them in there watching TV, maybe taking naps. They weren't that busy. So my question to you is, and I want you to think about this. If you took 10 to 15 minutes every shift, that's not a lot of time. 10 to 15 minutes over the course of a year to talk about a tool that's out on the apparatus, to talk about some new protocol, to talk about some new firefighting technology that's come along. And for Pete's sakes, you can even do it around the dinner table while you're eating and enjoying good food. Write it down as training. Think about how many hours you would have accumulated over a year if you did 10 or 15 minutes every shift. Don't tell me that you don't have 10 or 15 minutes out of a 24-hour period to devote to some kind of training. That is, again, BS. We're not that busy. So always be out there coaching, training, mentoring. If you ever have a guy, or if you yourself ever get to the point to where you think you know everything there is to know about the fire service, do us all a favor and quit, because you're an accident waiting to happen. There is too many things, too much knowledge, skills, abilities, whatever you want to term them, that we need to know about for us to think that we know everything there is to know. It's simply not the case. That 10 or 15 minutes that you spend every shift may mean the difference between saving a child's life or saving one of your brothers sitting out here this morning. It's huge. May not sound like much, but it could make the difference. All of you, I know you well enough to know that you have been preparing yourselves for future advancement. I'm hearing of promotions that have gone on in here this morning. I'm so proud of you guys. Be upwardly mobile in the organization. If you have a committee that comes up, volunteer to be on that committee. It'll help you learn, it'll help you grow, may open your eyes to some things. Envision yourself in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long you envision yourself working in this job, have a game plan for your future. You know, you may be in a position, how many years do you say you still got left?
18.
All right. That sounds like a lot of years, but it'll come around quicker than what you think. And so you may have an idea that, hey, one of these days, once I retire from Longview, I may want to go do something else in the fire service. Maybe you need to be working on your degree. Maybe you need to be working on some additional certifications. Maybe you need to be working on some specialty areas. Don't be one of those guys that just sits around and accepts the status quo. Y'all are better than that. Way better than that. If you don't remember anything else that I say here today, remember what I'm fixing to tell you. Company officers can make or break a station house. Company officers can make or break a station house. Company officers can make or break a shift. Company officers can make or break a shift. Company officers can make or break an organization. Company officers can make or break an organization. Whether you like it or not, you guys that are officers, you are part of management. You accepted that role when you pinned that badge on your chest and gave your oath. Your chief officers need your help, and they need for you to work together in a cohesive manner instead of tearing each other apart. Always, always support one another, no matter what. If you're really a brother to somebody, then you will do the right thing and you will support them. Instead of tearing each other down, lift each other up. Encourage each other. Seek out opportunities to serve and be professional at all costs. The last thing is, remember that being brothers is more than lip service. So that's basically my spiel this morning in that regard. Like I told you, it's nothing new. It's just we need to realign ourselves from time to time. I need it just like you need it. You need somebody to shoot straight with you, shoot from the hip, and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. You know, we need to think about this." That's the purpose of this morning. I know you guys are doing well in your careers. Proud of each of you. Keep on doing what you're doing. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back in, and I think y'all have probably seen this before because I've done it with y'all. It's the Admiral McRaven video of where he gave the address to the University of Texas graduating class. And what he says in that video applies to all of us. It doesn't matter what rank we are. So we'll come back in and watch that here in a minute. Y'all take a break. That's it.
I just want you to know I didn't make my bed by
I'm sweating.
These windows don't operate, right?
No, look.
They have a fan in the window. No,
So when you think you might go to?
Captain Jenkins is supposed to move up to interim February 2nd.
Okay.
So that should mean Adam Deary captain.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're either, I haven't heard, they're gonna just like move up other interim captains.
Gotcha.
I think March.
Wonder what?
Chief Skinner goes up.
Okay.
So probably that's it. Late or soon as
Alright, cool.
March.
Good.
Thank you very much.
For you, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
Good stuff.
Hopefully you
Thank you.
guys have a thermostat in the office, we're stopping by and I'll turn on the AC.
Thank you.
G-Ways, what you been up to, man?
A lot of, med calls,
Yeah?
and, started a business in 19 in health and life insurance, doing
Did you?
retirement planning, annuities, things like that.
Nice.
So, that's taken a lot. 2020 hit me in the nuts, getting a divorce.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, built a house in January of 20, and she moved out in April of 20.
Oh, man.
So, it's still the truth.
I've been there, brother.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Me too. But anyway, yeah, it's been good. It's, we've been, John and I have been working on a long project.
Yeah.
I came in and got a massage here a while back.
So you doing good?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Good.
And, I put out two.
We're doing like a week long with my wife. So, I, pretty much
actually, like I have 4 copies of those, terms to go in evaluations. I could run to the office and grab them.
Oh, the
Are you
little
gonna
blue
do it?
books?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
I'm gonna run get it.
Okay,
I'll be
all
right
right.
back.
Have you got a copy of the book,
I got
that your
4.
ship? Just bring those
I will.
with me, please.
I sure will.
Y'all ready, guys?
Did you read that book, Mr. Barr?
I'm like 3/4 of the way done. I'm trying to finish it before it's fast, and I did.
That definitely, cooled it in here.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, yeah.
What they do?
Front door and straight to the outside.
Put a vent fan.
I'd be cold in here by now.
No,
Close it up just a little bit.
don't do it.
I think I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
You see, I can do it right now.
These guys are right, I mean, they were talking about
Just curious, how many of y'all have seen the video with Admiral McRaven and it's addressed to UT? Okay, so some have, some haven't, so it's real good.
Why did he? That's what I said.
Well, thank you, President Powers, Provost Fendez, Deans, members of the faculty, family and friends, and most importantly, the class of 2014. It is indeed an honor for me to be here tonight. It's been almost 37 years to the day that I graduated from UT. I remember a lot of things about that day. I remember I had a throbbing headache from a party the night before. I remember I had a serious girlfriend, who I later married. That's important to remember, by the way. And I remember I was getting commissioned in the Navy that day. But of all the things I remember, I don't have a clue who the commencement speaker was, and I certainly don't remember anything they said. So acknowledging that fact, if I can't make this commencement speech memorable, I will at least try to make it short. So the university slogan is, what starts here changes the world. Well, I've got to admit, I kind of like it. What starts here changes the world. Tonight there are almost 8,000 students, there are more than 8,000 students graduated from UT. So that great paragon of analytical rigor, Ask.com, says that the average American will meet 10,000 people in their lifetime. 10,000 people, that's a lot of folks. But if every one of you changed the lives of just 10 people, and each one of those people changed the lives of another 10 people, and another 10, then in 5 generations, 125 years, the class of 2014 will have changed the lives of 800 million people. 800 million people. Think about it. Over twice the population of the United States. Go one more generation, and you can change the entire population of the world. 8 billion people. If you think it's hard to change the lives of 10 people, change their lives forever, you're wrong. I saw it happen every day in Iraq and Afghanistan. A young Army officer makes a decision to go left instead of right down a road in Baghdad, and the 10 soldiers with him are saved from a close-in ambush. In Kandahar province, Afghanistan, a non something isn't right and directs the infantry platoon away from a 500-pound IED, saving the lives of a dozen soldiers. But if you think about it, not only were those soldiers saved by the decisions of one person, but their children were saved. And their children's children, generations were saved by one decision, one person. But changing the world can happen anywhere, and anyone can do it. So what starts here can indeed change the world. But the question is, what will the world look like after you change it? Well, I'm confident that it will look much, much better. But if you'll humor this old sailor for just a moment, I have a few suggestions that may help you on your way to a better world. And while these lessons were learned during my time in the military, I can assure you that it matters not whether you ever served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. I've been a Navy SEAL for 36 years, but it all began when I left UT for basic SEAL training in Coronado, California. Basic SEAL training is 6 months of long, torturous runs in the soft sand, midnight swims in the cold water off San Diego, obstacle courses, unending calisthenics, days without sleep, and always being cold, wet, and miserable. It is 6 months of being constantly harassed by professionally trained warriors who seek to find the weak of mind and body and eliminate them from ever becoming a Navy SEAL. But the training also seeks to find those students who can lead in an environment of constant stress, chaos, failure, and hardships. To me, basic SEAL training was a lifetime of challenges crammed into 6 months. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made. That you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. During SEAL training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy. Every day your boat crew forms up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had Munchkin crew, we call them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had one American Indian, one African American, one Polish American, one Greek American, one Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys, from every corner of the nation and the world, always had the last lap, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. Several times a week, the instructors would line up the class and do a uniform inspection. It was exceptionally thorough. Your hat had to be perfectly starched, your uniform immaculately pressed, your belt buckle shiny and void of any smudges. But it seemed that no matter how much effort you put into starching your hat, or pressing your uniform, or polishing your belt buckle, it just wasn't good enough. The instructors would find something wrong. For failing the uniform inspection, the student had to run, fully clothed, into the surf zone, then wet from head to toe, roll around on the beach until every part of your body was covered with sand. The effect was known as sugar cookie. You stayed in the uniform the rest of the day, cold, wet, and sandy. There were many a student who just couldn't accept the fact that all their efforts were in vain, and no matter how hard they tried to get the uniform right, it went unappreciated. Those students didn't make it through training. Those students didn't understand the purpose of the drill. You were never going to succeed. You were never going to have a perfect uniform. The instructors weren't going to allow it. Sometimes, no matter how well you prepare, or how well you perform, you still end up as a sugar cookie. It's just the way life is sometimes. If you want to change the world, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward. Every day during training, you were challenged with multiple physical events: long runs, long swims, obstacle courses, hours of calisthenics, something designed to test your mettle. Every event had standards, times you had to meet. If you failed to meet those times, those standards, your name was posted on a list, and at the end of the day, those on the list were invited to a circus. A circus was 2 hours of additional calisthenics, designed to wear you down, to break your spirit, to force you to quit. No one wanted a circus. A circus meant that for that day, you didn't measure up. A circus meant more fatigue, and more fatigue meant that the following day would be more difficult, and more circuses were likely. But sometime during SEAL training, everyone made the circus list. But an interesting thing happened to those who were constantly on the list. Over time, those students who did 2 hours of extra calisthenics got stronger and stronger. The pain of the circuses built inner strength and physical resilience. Life is filled with circuses. You will fail. You will likely fail often. It will be painful. It will be discouraging. At times it will test you to your very core. But if you want to change the world, don't be afraid of the circuses. At least twice a week, the trainees were required to run the obstacle course. The obstacle course contained 25 obstacles, including a 10-foot wall, a 30-foot cargo net, a barbed wire crawl, to name a few. But the most challenging obstacle was the slide for life. It had a 3-level, 30-foot tower at one end, and a 1-level tower at the other. In between was a 200-foot long rope. You had to climb the 3-tiered tower, and once at the top, you grabbed the rope, swung underneath the rope, and pulled yourself hand over hand until you got to the other end. The record for the obstacle course had stood for years when my class began in 1977. The record seemed unbeatable, until one day a student decided to go down the slide for life head first. Instead of swinging his body underneath the rope and inching his way down, he bravely mounted the top of the rope and thrust himself forward. It was a dangerous move, seemingly foolish and fraught with risk. Failure could mean injury and being dropped from the course. Without hesitation, the student slid down the rope perilously fast. Instead of several minutes, broken the record. If you want to change the world, sometimes you have to slide down the obstacles head first. During the land warfare phase of training, the students are flown out to San Clemente Island, which lies off the coast of San Diego. The waters off San Clemente are a breeding ground for the great white sharks. To pass SEAL training, there are a series of long swims that must be completed. One is the night swim. Before the swim, the instructors joyfully brief the students on all the species of sharks that inhabit the waters off San Clemente. They assure you, however, that no student has ever been eaten by a shark, at least not that they can remember. But you were also taught that if a shark begins to circle your position, stand your ground. Do not swim away. Do not act afraid. And if the shark, hungry for a midnight snack, darts towards you, then summons up all your strength and punch him in the snout, and he will turn and swim away. There are a lot of sharks in the world. If you hope to complete the swim, you will have to deal with them. So if you want to change the world, don't back down from the sharks. As Navy SEALs, one of our jobs is to conduct underwater attacks against enemy shipping. We practice this technique extensively during training. The ship attack mission is where a pair of SEAL divers is dropped off outside an enemy harbor and then swims well over 2 miles underwater, using nothing but a depth gauge and a compass to get to the target. During the entire swim, even well below the surface, there is some light that comes through. It is comforting to know that there is open water above you. But as you approach the ship, which is tied to a pier, the light begins to fade. The steel structure of the ship blocks the moonlight. It blocks the surrounding street lamps. It blocks all ambient light. To be successful in your mission, you have to swim under the ship and find the keel, the center line, and the deepest part of the ship. This is your objective. But the keel is also the darkest part of the ship, where you cannot see your hand in front of your face, where the noise from the ship's machinery is deafening, and where it gets to be easily disoriented, and you can fail. Every SEAL knows that under the keel, at that darkest moment of the mission, is a time when you need to be calm, when you must be calm, when you must be composed, when all your tactical skills, your physical power, and your inner strength must be brought to bear. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moments. The 9th week of training is referred to as Hell Week. It is 6 days of no sleep, constant physical and mental harassment, and one special day at the Mud Flats. The Mud Flats are an area between San Diego and Tijuana where the water runs off and creates the Tijuana Sloughs, a swampy patch of terrain where the mud will engulf you. It is on Wednesday of Hell Week that you paddle down the Mud Flats and spend the next 15 hours trying to survive the freezing cold, the howling wind, and the incessant pressure to quit from the instructors. As the sun began to set that Wednesday evening, my training class, having committed some egregious infraction of the rules, was ordered into the mud. The mud consumed each man until there was nothing visible but our heads. The instructors told us we could leave the mud if only 5 men would quit. Only 5 men, just 5 men, and we could get out of the oppressive cold. Looking around the mud flat, it was apparent that some students were about to give up. It was still over 8 hours till the sun came up. 8 more hours of bone-chilling cold. The chattering teeth and shivering moans of the trainees were so loud, it was hard to hear anything. And then one voice began to echo through the night. One voice raised in song. The song was terribly out of tune, but sung with great enthusiasm. One voice became 2, and 2 became 3, and before long, everyone in the class was singing. The instructors threatened us with more time in the mud if we kept up the singing, but the singing persisted, and somehow the mud seemed a little warmer, and the wind a little tamer, and the dawn not so far away. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person, a Washington, a Lincoln, King, Mandela, and even a young girl from Pakistan, Malala. One person can change the world by giving So if you want to change the world, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit, is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell. For the class of 2014, you are moments away from graduating. Moments away from beginning your journey through life. Moments away from starting to change the world for the better. It will not be easy, but you are the class of 2014, the class that can affect the lives of 800 million people in the next century. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. Thank you very much. Dr. Barnes.
It is now my distinct honor to introduce our keynote, Admiral William McRaven.
Lights, I don't know. The lights working this place. What y'all think about that? Good information, isn't it? Applies to all of us. So, Steve wanted to talk about bad attitudes. You know, how you deal with bad attitudes and such. So, can you give me a scenario, and don't name names, just kind of set up a situation, tell me what we're dealing with.
Probably, I would say the toughest case are the people who just have stopped caring. Maybe they've been burned too many times, I don't know all the history, but they just don't care anymore. They're in it for themselves, they're cynical, they're burnt out, get into it all, they're like, hey, I've been there, I've tried, it doesn't work, they don't care, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna do my thing, be selfish, and that's the easiest way. It doesn't pay to do anything different.
Good. Is this line personnel? Is this leadership personnel? Is it a mix? I mean, do we need to turn that off?
No. And honestly, I haven't dealt with these too closely, right? They're not at my station, and I'm very thankful for that, right? We have our own challenges, but I'd say probably primarily line personnel.
Good.
I think oftentimes when I've dug into it, the glimpses I have seen behind the curtain is maybe at one point they did care, and they got burned because of it, right? They weren't appreciated, they got in trouble because they worked harder, and it basically cost them more to try to be good. So they're like, I'm not gonna be trying to be good, I'm gonna do the minimum and I'm gonna get in less trouble. I've seen a number of cases of that. That's really.
I guess the first question I would ask is, have others pulled them to the side and just had some open and honest conversations with them to really get the crutch of what the problems are and tried to work from it from that angle?
That I don't know, I kinda doubt it. Again, I haven't had a ton of those in my close sphere of influence. Yeah, I've been around them, I've seen them from a distance, I've tried to figure out why talented people are that way, and I've got just a glimpse of that, but it's usually other stations, other shifts, people I know. Yeah.
Alright, so I guess I would go at it from this angle, and it kinda goes back to what the Admiral was talking about, how you change a person's life. You obviously have identified a person or some persons that are the way you're saying that they are. You could go, even though they may not be at your house or on your shift, you could go as a brother and say, hey, I just want to talk to you for a little bit over here. And just sit down with them and say, these are some observations that I've had. I know that you didn't used to be like this. I'm worried about you and the future of your career, the future of, your service to the community, so forth and so on. That would be my first attempt to try to see what's going on. And then see if there's some options that might be available. You're saying burned out, so am I looking at that from an EMS standpoint where they're on a box and have just been ridden to death on it and they need some time away? Is it?
I can think of a few different examples and all that, and it kind of varies, but I can think of even guys that just more so that they were at one time like the go-getters, right? They did extra stuff, they took roles, and basically as a result of that, at some point it went wrong and they took a beating because of it, right? Whether it was just or not. And basically they can look at like, I do extra and I get in more trouble because the extra I did, right? Because admin wasn't happy, people didn't appreciate, honestly doing more is sometimes more risky, right? They look at people that hold down a recliner and do the minimum, and they don't get in trouble a lot of times, right? And so like, it just, like, I know it's the right thing, but it doesn't pay.
Yeah.
It's not worth it, right? It costs me, it costs my family more to try to do this side, so I'm just gonna be a minimums guy.
And that's a tough one, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I said, that would be my first approach, is you know who they are. I'd go just sit down over a cup of coffee or, lunch or something, just say, hey, this is what I'm looking at, and,
Let them know you care,
yeah.
relationship.
And obviously, if it's you that's identifying these, chances are there's a lot of other people in the organization that are seeing the same things. And if you know who those people are, it probably needs to be maybe a core group of support to show support towards them. Hey, we do care. We're sorry that you've had the blows that you have, or whatever it is. And what can we do to get you back on track? Because we care about you. We need you to be focused on the job. We need you to do whatever it was you did in the past, and just try to build them up. Try to show that support. Try to encourage them. Try to be that brother to them. That'd be the first step. And that's not there's still things, there's still more to it than that, but that would be the initial to start with. I don't know if that helped any or not.
It helps. And honestly, I wonder about that because that's the type of person I really haven't tackled, like that deeply hurt, cynical minimums guy. I've worked a lot with, and our crew, we aren't minimums people, right? We have our struggles, we all need perspective shifts, and I wrestle with that myself, and we wrestle with that. But part of me kind of fears like someday, if and when I'm an officer and I get that guy that's genuinely a minimums guy, I don't know quite what I'm gonna do, other than I know it's gonna be time and effort and messy and relationship and investment, but I haven't been there yet.
Cause there's quite a few of them, right?
Yeah.
And I think morale has a huge deal with that. I mean, obviously, everybody wants to point the finger at leadership and I'm not saying they're unjustly pointing that finger, but part of me kinda hit in the same way, is like, when you get those people and all they wanna do is blame admin or blame leadership, even though, like, in part ways, I agree. I mean, I understand that there's a layer to peel back that I don't even quite understand, so I do try to seek first and understand before I kinda give my 2 cents, but also, like, how do you reshape that focus? Cause a lot of it, like that just pours negatively, right? We talked about earlier today, like, if you just sit there and bash the people above you, like, it's not really, it probably makes us feel better in the moment, but really it's not fruitful in the long run. And how do you rechannel that energy and bring somebody back in? I mean, we've all complained about admin at one point in time in our careers, like, I'll be the first to admit, but how do you get somebody who is in such a cynical way to reshape that energy and like, hey man, like, and I get it, like, we all go through tough times and there's different things.
I know it's easy, we create islands. You know, we're over here at this station and, you know, we're gonna take care of ourselves, and whatever's going on across town
Right.
really doesn't affect us. We need to get away from that island mentality, you know, and do that reach out. Like I said, it may not be the same station, it may not be the same shift, it may be a different shift. I think if more of you would stand up and show your support for these that are struggling and having, it would go a long way, because it's easy in that manner to feel like you're alone, it's just happening to you, it's personal, you're isolated. But if you have a core group of guys, and I'm not talking about just one time having a conversation, I'm talking about, you know, have a relationship and regularly talk to those guys and follow up with them and encourage, and just, that goes a long ways. I will tell you, y'all as a group, there's been times throughout my career that I have felt down with different types of situations. And I'm thankful that I've had friends in the fire service that have stood by me, encouraged me, talked to me, let me vent to them. And that went a long way towards reshaping, you know, my attitude towards whatever situation it was. So if more of y'all would do that as a core group, that goes a long way. It really does. I don't know that there's any set, pat answer to that, but I would encourage that as an initial step. I've heard stories, stuff that's been shared with me. I probably know some of the people that y'all are referencing, and it's sad. It breaks my heart to know those people are struggling. But that would go a long ways. Sure would. What else? Something about that?
What is your best way, in my opinion, like from what I continue to learn as far as leadership goes, I feel like if there's anything that you can get right as a leader, or need to get right as a leader, is you have to care about people. You have to care about the people you're serving. Is there, I know, and that's in its simplest form, but is there any shortcut method, anything that you kind of put to the forefront when doing leadership, so to speak, as far as how you show care to people? Because there's a lot of things that I think that we try to, and we've even talked about this at our station, tangibly that we can do, challenge coins, like different stuff. Is there anything that you kind of pride yourself on, the untangibles? Like, I know you came by the station a lot as a battalion chief. Chief Johnson's done that on our shift, and that has shown it ways invaluable. Right? Just come to the station, hey man, good job. You guys crushed it on that fire, that was great.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you do specifically that you try and pride yourself on as far as the untangibles, to try and show people that you care within your department?
I think as much in a leadership role, no matter what that is, your people are what matter.
Sure.
and I have failed at times at that, but I try to acknowledge that fact. You know, our guys, there at Athens, you know, I'll get to work of a morning, and instead of going straight into my office and starting my day, whatever that is, lots of times they'll be out checking the trucks, or we have what we call a smoking table, that's out in the bay. They'll be out there having conversations, just going up, shaking their hands. Hey, how's it going? What's going on with you guys today? That goes a long ways, showing that I truly am interested in, hey, how are you doing today? You know, what's going on today on y'all's shift and stuff like that. That's important to maintain those connections. And I mentioned Chief Glass earlier as one of my mentors throughout my career. When I first promoted into training, he said, the one thing that you don't need to do is sit behind the desk all the time. He said, you've got people out there at those stations that matter. And he said, the more you can get out from behind your desk and mix and mingle with the guys in the field, the better relationship will be established between what you're trying to accomplish and what you're wanting to accomplish. And it's held true. I mean, it truly is. So if you're a leader, if you aren't engaged with your guys like that, and get engaged with them, because it's so important. Out of everything, that's the main thing. You know, there's if you've got guys that are off sick, if you've got guys that are going through hard times, like with their families or whatever, just calling them or seeing them at the station and saying, hey, I'm just thinking about you. You know, if you need anything, I'm here. Making yourself available, having that open door policy. You know, I've told the guys, you know, I don't care if I'm sitting there at my desk and I'm burning on fire, I will make time to visit with you. I'm never so busy that I can't take time to hear whatever it is, you know, we need to discuss. So those types of things go a long ways. And like I said, I failed at that, still fail at that. You know, I try, but I don't always get it right. But I do try to do the right things. What else? One book, and I see this one here. This is another book I would encourage y'all to check out if you haven't already. I gave this to our officers when I was there and encouraged them to read it. I opened it up, wrote a little thing inside the front cover, told them to read it, and I said, when y'all are done, pass this to your drivers. Let them read it, sign it, pass it down to the firefighters. Let everybody read it. How many of you have ever seen this book? So everybody's familiar with it. Have you read the book? Know the story behind it? Okay. The newer guys that are in the department that may not know about this book, I would encourage you to say, hey, you need to read this book. You know, it's an easy read, it's well written, sounds like what that one is. Share that one with everybody. I'm definitely going to check this out. Jason says that's a great read, so I'm looking forward to getting that and checking it out. That's good stuff. I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not an avid reader. I will read stuff if it's interesting and piques my interest, but it's really important for you guys as officers and aspiring officers to get into some of this stuff and read it, because it will pay dividends to you. It'll open your eyes to some things that maybe you weren't aware of before. There's a lot of different things out there. So another one, how many of you are familiar with this book? Any of the officers in here have this now? No? Y'all need to get this. So this is called, and this is what we're fixing to get into next. This is effective phrases for performance appraisals. So if you have to do evaluations, this is a key book for you. And we found this years ago at Books A Million on the shelf, and then we started buying them for the officers. So, like for example, if, let's see, if you've got a topic, say, of initiative, I can't remember what the job descriptions look like for Longview, but if you've got a heading that says initiative and you're sitting there going, man, what words do I even use for that? This book is a cheat book that gives you sentences of things that you can apply to different situations for a lot of different headings. Job knowledge, planning, problem solving, productivity, professionalism, responsibility, and it just goes on and on and on. I'll pass some of these around, y'all can check them out. Y'all definitely need to get those and check them out. Lieutenant Glover, have you got one yet?
No, sir.
Okay, see Chief Creighton, he's got them. But they're handy. They're well worth their weight. Make your evaluations go a lot easier. Chief, how does that go up?
There's a button over there back in the control module that should come over there.
And those books are, what do you pay for those? Do you remember? They're not very much.
Those are like $6.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap.
And that one, I think, is 16.
For what they are, they're good. How many of you like doing evaluations? And if you raise your hand, something's wrong.
I'll send you some if you like it.
Oh, Lord.
I believe you, I hear how terrible it is.
I'll tell you what. I don't know of anybody that likes doing evaluations.
No. I'm not that bad.
How did you get that?
You gotta be outstanding to get that.
Okay, so what we did, these are actually some sample statements from some of our files there at Athens. So what we're gonna do is go through these and just talk about some things and see how you feel about this. All right, so our evaluations, they may be a little bit different from what you're doing now, but we have 6 categories. If you score them a 1, that's unsatisfactory. If it's a 2, it needs improvement. 3 is average, 4 is above average, 5 is commendable, and 6 is outstanding. So that's our rating scale. So if you look at number 1 there, it says blank's quality of work is above average. He is a dependable person that does not need to be checked on. His station, crew, and truck are always ready for deployment. All right, so how is that one scored? It's scored a 5, and what's a 5? That's commendable. But what does it say?
Above that.
His work is above average. So you need to just be aware of how your numerical score is compared to what you're writing. Be sure those match up. All right, number 2, blanks shows above average initiative on a daily basis. He checks to see if there's anything to be completed. His guys found that the chainsaw did not work on their engine. Instead of pushing it to the next shift, he took it to the repair shop. Again, he scored a 5, but what's it say? Above average. So that's a 4. So be sure those will line up. Number 3, blank is good at seeing the whole picture, whether at the station or on emergency calls. He uses people and equipment effectively. Now, what do you think about that score? If you were doing that evaluation, what would you score that person? what would you score?
Average.
Okay,
Agreed.
average,
3.
average,
4.
4,
Above average.
Ways,
Above average.
4.
3 or 4, I mean,
Get your tweener.
3.
Alright, so the way you have to think about this is, he's good at seeing the whole picture, whether at the station or on emergency calls. And he uses people and equipment effectively. I hope they do. That's their basic job description. That's a 3. That's average. There's nothing about that that screams out above average. You hope that everybody's doing that. So be careful with that. Alright, number 4, meets job requirements, produces acceptable work, is scored a 4. What should they be scored?
3.
A 3, yeah. He's doing the minimums. Alright, number 5, accepts criticism, has good attitude, works well with others. Scored a 4. Is that right?
3.
It's a 3, yeah. I mean, that's just minimum stuff, average. Number 6, has common sense, usually reaches sound decisions. Scored him above average.
I think that's a 2.
Yeah,
Usually.
So, the thing you've got to think about, as bad as we don't like to do evaluations, we do really need to take them serious. Because on an annual basis, when you sit down with that employee and you give them their evaluation, it's more than just putting something down on a piece of paper and sliding it over to them, so read that, sign it, and we're done. It's more to it than that. If you've got a person that's working for you and you do an evaluation correctly, it's an opportunity for you to help grow that person. Give them some challenges, talk about their positives, talk about areas they need to improve in, and let them know that, you know, this time next year when we come back around to do your evaluation, we're going to see how well you've progressed. And it goes back to accountability, holding their feet to the fire. The other thing you've got to remember, once you do these evaluations, these don't just stay in-house at the fire department. Those go to HR. The other aspect of that you need to remember, if you have, let's say you're out running a call somewhere in the engine one day, and God forbid you have a bad accident at an intersection. You can rest assured the attorneys are going to come in and they're going to say, let me see the driver's performance evaluations over the past however long he's been there. They're going to dig into that. So you need to make sure these are as correct and accurate as possible, because you never know who's going to see this. And if you've got an employee that you have made notations in there about ex-employee needs to improve their driving skills, or they need to do whatever, and that's documented, and then that goes to court, they're going to rip you a new one, and they're going to rip the city a new one. So be careful about how you document stuff in these. All right. Number 8, produces acceptable work, meets requirements. Scored him a 4. What is that?
3.
Should be a 3, yeah. All right. Number 9, above average, adapts as needed. What are your thoughts on that one? Is it scored correctly?
It's above average, that's what a 4
It's
is.
scored, but what else does it need?
It's not very well supported.
It needs some supporting information. Give a couple of examples, you know, whatever that may be, that supports them being above average. Attendance, ability to be at work on time, is what that, the way it reads on our evaluation. There wasn't any comments out there, but they scored him a 2. Needs improvement. Well, okay, you scored him in a needs improvement, but there's no comments, so how is that employee supposed to know how he needs to improve? So there needs to be some kind of commentary made there. Now let's say, let me look here something. Let's say with that, the person does have an attendance problem, and you've scored them a 2, needs improvement. You've put them on notice that, hey, I need you to buckle down and do better on your attendance. All right, a year later, you're back in here doing the annual evaluation, and the guy's still got an attendance problem. Now what do you need to do? Is it needs improvement, or is it unsatisfactory? Unsatisfactory at that point, and then what else do you need to do in addition to the performance evaluation?
Progressive discipline.
Alright, so give them a verbal, a written verbal. Remember that if you don't have it in writing, it never happened, because they could come back and say, well, you never told me that. But if you've got it documented and both of you have signed, then you've got that record. So, number 11, blank, you do what is required of you daily. You need to try and display some more initiative around the station. Watching videos on your phone all day is not setting a good example to the younger, more junior firefighters on shift. They scored him average. What's your thoughts on that one? 2. Needs improvement. Put them on notice. Hey, you need to, do better at this. Number 12, the work you produce daily is impeccable. You do a great job on completing the task thoroughly and efficiently. When asked to complete an assignment or a task, you never complain and you jump right on it. One item you need to work on is the patient care report. What's your thoughts about that?
Mixed review, it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of mixed.
There's not much details on what work needs done on the
Right.
PCR.
So need to provide a little bit more detail. Number 13, blank is very thorough with the work he does, making sure it is all done correctly. He is well trained and knows his job. That's a 3. That's you hope that's the way he's doing. All right, 14, blank does well taking initiative when it's fire related. Always a self-starter, willing to do all he can, but when it comes to duties around the station, he lacks initiative sometimes. Overall, he does very well, just need to try and do more around the station. Scored him above average.
2 to 3.
Yeah, that's what I say, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You're supporting that he needs to improve.
Right. So at that point, you're kind of in the judgment seat there, so if you're going with the needs improvement, then spell it out. This is what you need to work on. Or if it's average, okay, this is average, but, give some examples.
Chief, quick question on that.
Right.
Say it's almost a split category. If there's within that area you're addressing, there is some, like, say half commendable, right? Or very commendable, then half that does need improvement. Do you essentially split the difference and just support both so they're both clear there?
We're only gonna be able to pick one number.
Yeah.
So,
Do you average the
I
results
think
and
you
support both?
You as the company officer, you're gonna know your employees better than anybody. And I think it's gonna be a judgment call on your part. If this person is normally a go-getter, says he's a self-starter, willing to do all he can, he's just lacking a little bit of initiative around the station. If this is the first discussion you've had, I'd probably score him as average. But if this comes back the next year and it's still an issue, then I drop it to the needs improvement. Give them the benefit of the doubt. So that's the way I do that. All right, 15, has a great deal of leadership experiences and uses this to the benefit of the department. He did a good job on incident XYZ of responding to a serious call in the squad in a timely manner as soon as he was cleared from the current incident he was on. Scored that as commendable. Is that a commendable action? 3. Yeah. It might be a 4, maybe, but you're gonna need some more supporting information there. Just reading that's a straight 3. Number 16, very good. You seem to always put in the extra effort. Scored him as commendable. There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing there that screams commendable. Now, on the other hand, on that one, if you said very good, you seem to always put in the extra effort. In the spring, you were part of this committee, you contributed, did yada, yada, yada. In the summer, you went to Texas A&M Fire School and took XY class, then yeah, that's gonna be a higher score. 17, your quantity is as much, most of the time it is more.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
60% of the time it works.
Yeah. But scored him a commendable, so. Number number 18, you're skilled and you know your responsibilities. Scored him above average. Well, maybe he does, but you need to justify that with some more examples. Otherwise, it's just a straight 3. Number 19, good learner. Got him scored as a 4. Well, maybe he is, but what makes him a good learner, you know? Otherwise, it's a 3. And then 20, this section was what areas need the most improvement, and that officer put no glaring issues with you. So, you know, so in that deal, if you have an opportunity to challenge your people for the next evaluation process, I know like with us there in Athens, we just now created the fire driver position this past year. So we're requiring all the drivers to get their pumper and aerial certifications through the commission. We're also requiring our firefighters that step up to drive to go through that process also. So in their evaluations, what I'm asking officers to do under areas that need the most improvement, if they haven't already obtained those certifications, then you need to obtain this over the course of the next year. Come the next year, if they still haven't done that, then, you know, hold their feet to the fire. So be sure you do that. That's just some examples that we pulled from our files to share with you. Just be real careful how you're documenting these. And again, as bad as we hate to do them, they are a necessary tool for growing our people. So if we're gonna have to do them, let's do them right and make sure that we're holding people accountable and scoring them the way they need to be scored. Any questions on those? All right. Chief, you know how to cut this thing off over here?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I need to say something to all those out there in YouTube land. So anyway, thank y'all for coming out, and thank you, Chief Marshal. Awesome presentation as always. Really enjoyed that. Those of you that are watching in YouTube world, be sure you chat with us so that we can provide you with a certificate. We'll need your contact information, and we'll get something out to you. I'll give you my email address here right quick. I don't know if it's
Darker.
Orange is a great color. I'm in that station 2 great color.
You're asking for it.
What's for lunch?
I don't know.
That's good. Oh, I have a place. I have a place.
Do you? Is this a new place?
It's not new, but it's great.
Okay.
We go there almost every other day.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my email address. If you'll send me a email, I'll get your certificate, but I will need to see evidence that you were watching, so I'll need some chat there on that YouTube channel. We will be doing a 5-part series, and so this was just session 1. This brought you guys up to speed with the ones that have already participated in session 1. I'll be scheduling the second, probably in March or so, and I have all of your email addresses, so I'll notify you. And it'll be announced on the ESD website. I don't know, we'll announce it probably a month out, a couple of weeks out, etc. So all those that want to participate distance can. So anyway, appreciate it. And anybody have any questions on anything? Everybody got their emails? All right, sweet. So I'll get Robert, we'll get this.
Thank you.
Hang tight, guys.
Chief, have you found value in doing like a 360 evaluation where subordinates?
Yeah, those are good.
Okay.
Those are real good. Yeah, gives you an idea of, you know, how you're performing for them. You know, and that should be the way we look at it as leaders. We're working for the people we supervise, not the other way around. So that's a good tool to see how you're doing.